No, I think we're all here.
I don't see them, so
You don't?
I just see you.
Oh, that's
Eh,
odd.
Yes, you and Yvonne. Participant. Yeah, the mic is off. I don't know what's wrong. Launch meeting, open Zoom meeting.
I'm going to hit the record button now as well, so
Okay, but I'm having problem.
There's a view thing somewhere, Liz.
Where?
There's a view. I'm on a laptop, so it's different on an iPad. If you're on an iPad,
No, I'm on a laptop, but usually I don't have any issue. Like I teach with that, and
Top right.
Someone has either their television or a radio on.
and that would be me.
Okay, because
Hey.
we're hearing that.
Okay, so okay, now I got it.
Okay,
Put the TV down, and I got you guys.
we are live.
We're live, or we're live.
is it 6:30 or do we still have a minute?
There's a
I
minute.
show
on-
6:31.
Okay.
Okay, well, we might as well start. So I want to say welcome to our virtual council meeting, bienvenue à notre réunion virtuelle. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest, aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire?
No,
None. We proceed with the agenda.
May I have a mover and a seconder?
Leo,
Seconder, Chris? It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on November the 3rd, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Okay, before calling it to a vote, we did receive a letter this afternoon. Nous avons reçu une lettre cet après-midi from Cano. The letter doesn't identify that it's confidential. And I do know that according to the president of Cano, it is public information. So my recommendation would be that that letter be added under correspondence F3. Conseil Lise?
And Madame la Mairesse, I just, am I okay? Can you hear me?
Oh,
Okay, I just want to say that I was part of that meeting on September 28th where that was discussed and we had saw the draft at that point of time. And yes, I asked the question specifically if it was public information and they say yes. Obviously, I think they're even thinking of sending it with the press. So it is public information and it should be an open meeting. That's my thought. Thank you.
Merci pour le point de clarification. Thank you for the clarification. So based on the amendment, all in favor? Carried. It's a great pleasure, me fait un grand plaisir ce soir that we have a delegation amongst us. Et ça me fait plaisir de vous introduire Cynthia Desormeaux, the CEO of the West Nipissing General Hospital, who will be providing council with a presentation pertaining to good news in West Nipissing, the CT scanner. So I'll pass it on to you, Cynthia.
Bonsoir, good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cynthia Desormeaux. I'm the president and CEO of the West Nipissing General Hospital. Mon nom c'est Cynthia Desormeaux. Je suis présidente et directrice générale de l'Hôpital Général de Nipissing West. Next slide, please. Second slide is our strategic plan for the past 5 years. It was created in 2019 and it will end in 2024. Our purpose is to provide culturally health care to our culturally, to provide quality healthcare to our culturally and linguistically diverse population. Our values include respect, patient-centered, communication, teamwork, compassion, and social accountability. Our commitment speaks to the programs and services we tailor to meet the needs of our community, in addition to the types of core programs that a typical hospital would provide. And our direction, of course, is patient, resident, clients, people, staff, and physicians. Nothing about me without me. Partnerships with a purpose. Safe work environment, physical and psychological safety for all. organization agility, so our flexibility to meet the issues of the day, and capital planning, building with a future in mind. And our tagline, of course, is streamlining exceptional healthcare and focused on community. Next slide, please. Ça, c'est notre plan stratégique pour les prochaines 5 ans en français. Next slide. Our board of directors, notre conseil d'administration. Oops, we missed one. I think, can you go back one, Melanie? Yeah, perfect. Merci.
Sorry.
Thanks, that's okay. So our board of directors, notre conseil d'administration, président du conseil, c'est Colin Bourgeois, he's our board chair. Vice-présidente, c'est Janet Parsons, our vice chair. Julie Saint-Jacques is our treasurer. Robert Pilon. Leo Millette is our municipal appointment board member. And Danielle Richard, Jamie Restoul, Howard Longfellow, Mary Williamson, Eric Stevens is the appointment from the Nipissing First Nations as our board member. Renee Ragnitz. And then, of course, non-voting and ex officio include myself, Sandra Lacoussière, who is our Chief Nursing Officer, Dr. Ben Lalonde, who is our Chief of Staff, Dr. Yves Vaillancourt, who's our Chief of ED and the Vice President of the Medical Staff, and Dr. Claude Bogo, who is our President of the Medical Staff. Next slide, please. Our executive team consists of 4 members, which is myself, Sandra Lacoussière, Danielle Saint-Georges, and Dr. Ben Lalonde, who's our Chief of Staff. Next slide, please. This slide provides West Nipissing General Hospital at a glance. So we have a total of 99 beds. 31 of them are acute care beds, 19 are complex continuing care beds, 48 are our interim long-term care. And of course, we have a beautiful hospice suite where we have patients who are at end of life. We have 1 palliative care bed in our long-term care, which is unfunded, but it was created to provide a private room for patients and families in the long-term care unit at end of life. We have 275 employees and typically more than 75 physicians credentialed. Year to date, as of this morning, we actually have 93 physicians credentialed. We have a significant amount of new specialists, new locums, new radiologists from North Bay, and a new nephrologist who's joined our team here in West Nipissing. We also have 3 accountability agreements with Ontario Health, our HSAW for the Hospital Global Accountability Agreement, our LSAW for our long-term care funding, our MSAW for our mental health and substance abuse program. And of course, all 3 of these agreements indicate that we must balance our budget at the end of the year. Next slide, please. So the services and programs that we provide at our hospital include 24/7 ED, a lab, radiology, commonly known as X-ray, mammography and breast screening, our CT scanner, which is our go live date is November 9th. So this Monday coming up, we are going live. Ultrasound and Dopplers. In our nursing program, we have acute care, complex, interim, long-term care. Our endoscopy suite is in the OR with gastroenterologists visiting us and other specialists. And we mostly do gastroscopies and colonoscopies. We have a pharmacy program. We have oncology where we provide chemotherapy. We have a 3-bed sleep clinic, so we maximize our real estate on the night shift. Clinical nutrition, dietary. We have a full-time physiotherapist, a part-time occupational therapist, and speech pathology as well on contract. We have a full-time respiratory therapist and an ECG program. Our mental health and substance abuse program, commonly called Alliance Center. We will be beginning an addictions medicine program in 2020. So more news on that to come. We have a crisis intervention program that operates evenings from 4 to 11, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. We have a diabetes program, a cardiac rehabilitation program, ambulatory care, where our visiting specialists from North Bay and Sudbury and even the Muskoka area come up to provide services to our residents of West Nipissing. Cardiac rehab, we have 2 telehealth OTN studios, an information technology program, an infection prevention and control program, our IPAC program, which has been quite valuable during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. So service volumes for 2019-2020. Our hospital, as all hospitals in Ontario, run on a fiscal year, from April 1, 2019 to March 31st, 2020. For the last fiscal year, we had over 17,000 emergency department visits. We had 854 patients admitted to hospital for a total of 32,500 total patient days. Our average acute length of stay is 10.54 days. That's slightly up over the past year. Our average complex continuing care length of stay is 136.5 days. In our complex continuing care, that's where people are awaiting rehabilitation. They may have had a stroke, they may have had surgery and are going through rehab with physio, and or they may be ALC waiting placement in a long-term care home. Our average length of stay in our long-term care unit is 604 days, and that is 1.6 years. Our occupancy in the acute care and complex continuing care is 86.1 to 98%. I will mention, though, that since COVID-19, we have a much higher occupancy rate. We're running often 98 and over 100% occupancy. Our challenges is related to being able to discharge patients home safely with the PSW shortage in our community and in all of Ontario, as well as some of the new directives and changes that have been issued for admissions to long-term care. So that's greatly affected our length of stay. And then, of course, our 48-bed long-term care unit length of stay is 99.5, and we have a mandate to maintain a 98% occupancy, so we exceed that. Next slide, please. So this is just a snapshot of how busy we've been. So over the past year, we've done over 1,300 OR procedures. We've had 536 oncology visits, so that's our patients in the community getting chemo. We've had over 1,427 volunteer hours. Our volunteers pre-COVID were mostly in our OBSP program, our mammography program, long-term care, provided services at Mass, and our palliative care program. In our respiratory therapy, ECG, and therapeutics program, we've had over 20,000 patient visits. Our telehealth visits are at 876. That is our virtual visits. And I have to say they've gone extremely well since the onset of COVID, and it allowed us to continue to provide patient care. Substance abuse and mental health programs have had over 7,400 visits per year, close to 7,500 for the past fiscal year. And diagnostic imaging, ultrasound, and mammography, over 18,000 tests performed. In our ambulatory care, we've had almost 19,000 visits, so 1,872. And those are with our visiting specialists, as I mentioned earlier, including ear, nose, and throat, cardiology, gastroenterology, nephrology, and so on. Our laboratory has performed over 1.3 million lab tests in the past fiscal year. So we have been quite busy, despite COVID. Next slide, please. So our 2020 statement of operations included our revenue, and our main source of revenue is the Ministry of Health, Cancer Care Ontario, and our global funding through the LINS at $26.9 million. And our operating expenses, which include salaries and benefit, drugs and medical supply are very high on our list, as well as utilities, of course, at $26.6 million. So our excess of revenues over expenses for the year leaves us with a balanced budget at $102,000. We've been very fortunate to have been able to balance our budget since 2009. That's definitely a team effort across the board here. On average, our medical equipment is amortized over a 10-year period, as little as 7 years and up to as high as 12 or 15, and that varies based on the use of the equipment, and at times we may be able to extend our equipment by 1 to 2 years. The CT scanner will be also amortized as well. Next slide, please. So our CT scanner. The total cost of the CT scanner, including the equipment and the turnkey renovations, is $1.8 million. We pride ourselves in using local vendors for these renovations as much as possible with respect to the room, flooring, drywall, painting, electrical, HVAC, etc. And our annual operating budget is estimated between $282,000 and $293,000. So if we break down the cost of operating the CT scanner, our annual service contract will range up to $140,000 in year 1, up to $149,000 in year 5. Our salaries and benefits are estimated at $110,000 for year 1. However, this does not include our callbacks or our after-hours call. And of course, we have supplies included at about $43,000. That will be our contrast dyes for the injections, IV therapies, and other supplies needed in the program. So our hours of operation for the CT scanner will be 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. and we will have an on-call service for the emergency department from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We will be scheduling out patients from 8 to 4 p.m. and we anticipate initially scheduling about 12 patients per day, in addition to our ED patients and our inpatients that are in the nursing care unit. And when we are fully operational, we anticipate performing about 20 to 25 CT scans per day. So as I said earlier, hot off the press, our go live date is November 9th, 2020, this Monday, where we'll start to see some patients. So patients are going to be booked on Monday with our app specialist from Canon, who will be on site for 2 weeks. And then we will have some assistance over the next 5 to 6 weeks for additional training. A CT scan takes about 20 minutes from start to finish. From the time you're registered, checked in, you get your scan done, and you're dressed and ready to go home. So it's pretty quick. The Canon Equilon Prime SP CT scanner that we've purchased, it has some very cool features. The latest technology that's unique to us. It includes an optimized X-ray spectrum, which increases the photon transmission. Pure vision optics, which provides the right balance of an image quality and the right dose of radiation for every patient. Our system has deep learning and reconstruction to reconstruct the perfect image, sharper, better, and faster. And of course, a key feature for safety for patients is high quality images with low dose radiation. We have the next generation of CT scanners that will reduce radiation and unnecessary exposure to patients. And that was very important to us when we made this purchase. We will have exceptional low noise properties. We will have enhanced anatomical resolution for the body. And essentially our scanner is what we call an ACE, Advanced Intelligence Clear IQ Engine. It is the best. In addition to all the technology I talked about, we will also have a high-low bariatric stretcher to accommodate all patients. And that's quite unique to our community and our district as well. So earlier access to the CT scanner will result in our physicians being able to diagnose patients earlier, start treatments earlier, and make appropriate referrals for consultations and procedures that they may need. And they will be able to be supported by the CT images. The CT scanner will assist our physician to determine if a specialty referral is required and perhaps reduce or eliminate any unnecessary travel for our patients and families who are currently traveling to North Bay and Sudbury. The intervention of a CT scanner alone, which is now a standard of care, is a game changer. It will improve patient outcomes. So the CT scanner and renovations were completely funded by the hospital through savings over the past 10 years and with very generous donations. So we anticipate that a $7.50 tax levy per household should result in about $50,000 of revenue annually. And when we looked at the tax levy, the amount of $750 is in keeping with the tax levy that was afforded to the North Bay Regional Health Centre over a 15-year period previously. So at this time, I would like to take the opportunity to reiterate the focus in West Nipissing, which is stay local, shop local, and support locally. And as a result, I have the following recommendation for consideration. The West Nipissing General Hospital respectfully requests the Mayor and Council to consider a tax levy of $7.50 per West Nipissing household for a period of 10 years to support the operation of a CT scanner in our community. Next slide, please. So this is our tagline based on our strategic plan, where we're streamlining exceptional healthcare focused on community. And this is what our CT scanner is all about. Next slide, please. So this concludes my presentation and my request for the tax levy. So I want to thank you. I want to dire merci and miigwech. I'm sorry, I didn't. Did you want me to leave the meeting now, Melanie?
No, sorry, I was on mute. I was saying thank you for the presentation, but before you do depart, I want to see whether or not if there's any members of council, if they have any questions or comments pertaining to the presentation. So I'll just do a quick round table to find out. Conseiller Yvon, if you have any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Cynthia. It was well, it was, you know, you laid it out fairly clear and precise. The question I have is, how are we doing for training and personnel within the hospital itself for the CT scan?
That's a great question. Currently next week for 2 weeks, we have expertise from Canon on site at our hospital training our staff. We also have seconded one of the full-time techs from North Bay to work with us for the next 6 weeks to work with our staff on additional training. And we're working very closely with Dr. Jeff Hodge from North Bay Regional Health Centre to ensure that our staff are well trained, maintain their competency, And we will be very fortunate to have a liaison with the radiology group in North Bay. They are a phone call away and have been very involved in supporting us to get across the finish line.
Great, thank you very much. So it's going to be in-house with the personnel we have.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Chris?
So I just a general question. I don't know much about medical things, so I have to look this up. So can you just kind of explain the difference between an MRI and a CT scanner, and why we would have a CT scanner and not an MRI, that kind of stuff? Just they're kind of similar things.
Right. So I'm definitely not an expert on MRIs either. So the CT scanner is a standard of care now, and very often it's much more difficult to get an MRI. But the CT scanner will be able to provide us with images of all of the organs and the vessels and the brain, lungs, and all of those things that's required. So it is our choice to choose the CT scanner, and it is usually the one that the Ministry of Health will approve licensing for. It's much more difficult to get an MRI, but definitely a CT scanner is, your first level of imaging.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Conseiller Rowley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I think it's a great idea to have a CT scanner in West Nipissing. But question would be, doesn't the province provide funds to operate this CT scanner, or enough funds? No.
No. So unfortunately, CT scanners that are being approved now are called own fund CT scanners. So there has been probably 5 or 6 other CT scanners that we're aware of in Ontario, especially in Northern Ontario, that have been approved recently, and they're all self-funded. Some of them, like the one in Elliott Lake, was funded through a mining company. Ours is through savings over the past 10 years. But the Ministry of Health and the Capital Branch that we work closely with were very clear to state that you need to have your own funds, and you need to be operational, and you need to stay in a balanced budget to be able to acquire these CT.
Okay, thank you. I guess 750 would be enough to operate this, or you still need to find funds elsewhere?
So 750 is a great start. If you want to, recommend more, that would be wonderful too. But the way we're looking at it is that we do balance our budget annually. We want to be respectful of everybody's finances currently, and we felt that 750 was reasonable. And we do have other fundraising activities that we will be going into, and we did receive a nice donation as well from the CASE Alliance this year and our own foundation. So I think we'll be fine with that tax levy.
Oh, thank you. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Conseiller Leo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Cynthia, for your presentation. I know I'm not in West Nipissing, but I use one in North Bay when I had a stroke. And I know sometimes with a stroke, time is the essence. And to get the TPA, there was a time frame. I think it's 4 hours. So if you're up in the bush in North River Valley, whatever, by the time you get the sturgeon, they could do the scan and then give you the TPA. Right now, they can't do the TPA because they don't know if it's a stroke or not. So yeah, I support the initiative for CAT scan. But thank you for your presentation, Cynthia.
If I may clarify, thank you, Councillor Millette. So a stroke protocol will be part 2. So we need all of the training, as we talked about, where Councillor Duhaime wanted to ensure we had proper training and we're doing all the right things. And then our next step will be to get involved in the stroke protocol. So that's a second level of the CT scanner, but that's what we're working towards as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Conseiller Dan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, and I just have some questions in regards to financing. So it costs approximately $470,000 to operate per year?
It costs approximately, I'm just going to pull back my slide so I don't make a mistake here.
Well, it's just that it's $290 operating, 140 for service contract, or am I reading this wrong?
Yeah, so the total of is 282 to 293, and I put a breakdown below on the slide below. So our service contract is 140,000 per year. That's for the equipment. And then salaries is about 110, and then some supplies, which totals up to 282 to 293, depending on which year in the 5-year cycle we are in.
So 282 to 290, and then you're asking the municipality to put to get into an agreement with a 7.5 levy, which would give us $50,000 approximately. So you'll have to find the other 230,000 to keep this afloat.
Correct. So some of the savings that we are affording now with the transfer nurses and all of the costs associated with sending out our patients for CT scans to North Bay and Sudbury, will be able to recoup that. So that will go into providing operational dollars as well. So the 750 tax levy will be of great assistance and will definitely be helpful for us. But we do have other savings that were afforded from not sending out any longer, and then some other fundraising opportunities as well.
And then just to follow up on that, I'll wear my DSAP hat. That means you'll be not tying up the EMS as much as you're tying it up right now, right?
That's a great question, Councillor Revita. I anticipated you mentioning that. Absolutely. So, and as you know better than most, that having EMS on the ground for any kind of incidents in the community and not on the road transporting patients and all of the long delays associated with that will definitely keep our community safer. Yes.
Oh, good job. Thank you. Good presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Conseiller Denis?
Thank you, Cynthia, for your presentation. I'm all in favor of the CT scan. I'm so happy we're going to get one in West Nipissing. We don't have to travel to North Bay anymore. And I'm so happy. Whoever did all this work, I commend them, and I support you 100%. And I guess my only question is, are you thinking of having a payroll deduction plan of some sort? Or?
So no, we hadn't thought of that yet. We've done that in the past, and there's pros and cons of that, and some received it well, others did not. Given the challenges that everybody's going through with COVID-19, the stress and some of the uncertainties personally at work and perhaps in your family, we didn't want to tap into that yet. It's on our list, but definitely we didn't want to tap into it. We just didn't feel that the timing was right.
Okay, thank you, and you have my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Senecal.
Conseillère Lise?
Merci beaucoup, Cynthia. C'est vraiment apprécié. Je suis très heureuse de voir aussi qu'on a finalement un dans le Nipissing West. Puis moi, ce que j'ai été dit, la grosse différence dans les deux, là, tu l'as mentionné, que c'était pour les organes, quand tu avais des problèmes, ils sont capables de voir beaucoup plus, tandis que le même honneur, c'est plus que les muscles, les os. Quand ils faisaient un choix des deux. Mais très satisfaite de voir ça. Je supporte l'initiative à 100%. En fait, de questions de financement, j'aimerais savoir, tu as dit 7,50 $. 750, I think, eh?
Oui, c'est ça.
For everybody, but I mean, does that include, I mean, also, does that include business also, or just specifically the number, because we have 6,000 something, I'm not too sure about the number, so I'm not going to say it, but is it just also and no business, or include everybody that's paying tax in West Nipissing?
So I would leave that to your discretion, but I think that's a wonderful question and a great suggestion. It was hard to get the data. So the data we collected was, I think, 6,810 households. And it was difficult to get the number of businesses, but I would definitely leave that to the expertise of the mayor and council. And if you wish to extend that recommendation to include businesses, then we support that 100%.
Yeah, no, and well, it could make a little bit of difference. It might be able to do lower, and I support the project 100%, and that will be a good decision at budget time, obviously, because we have to deal with that at that point. But I do fully support the initiatives. Cynthia, thank you very much. I think you're doing a great work, and we're very lucky to have an hospital in West Nipissing, emergency room, and all the services you are offering. So thank you very much, and keep up the good work and pass a good word to your team, because they deserve it, especially in this time of crisis.
If there's no further question, basically all the questions I had have been asked and answered. But I do want to congratulate you, Cynthia, and the entire team at the West Nipissing General Hospital and the board. I mean, for being persistent in pursuing this initiative. It's been a few years in the works. And I think the next step, we'll get a report from staff identifying, what are the numbers and who it would involve and so on. So we have a better idea of what the levy, the implication would be. And is it realistic? I'm going to be directing the question to Jay. Is it realistic that we get a report for our next general government meeting so we can start the deliberation on the special levy for the CT scanner?
I'd have to get back to you on that. It certainly wouldn't be difficult to add and give you a number multiplying by the number of households. That wouldn't be tough for you to do. So I suppose you can get that report back. It's certainly a budgetary discussion. So anyway.
Okay. No, but just as far as point of clarification from Councillor Lee Senecal, if the levy is applicable strictly to residential and so on. But yeah, so hopefully it'll be favorable and anything that we can do. I know that we've got our challenges, but we also realize the benefit to the community, the benefit to the residents of this area and how it's instrumental for their well-being and their health. Donc, encore une fois, un grand merci.
Merci beaucoup. Bonne soirée.
Merci. On procède avec le comité de gouvernement général. We proceed with the Committee of General Government, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseillère Lise.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. Bonsoir tout le monde. We have, let me see, 4 items on the agenda, and the first one is something that been brought up from another meeting that we did not have a chance to conclude. D1 is change in the procedure bylaw and regarding a special meeting, emergency meeting, and it's Councillor Dan that had brought it up. So I'm going to pass the mic to Councillor Dan, and I'll go around after that as usual, the way I do it. So Councillor Dan, and I'm wondering why tonight the screen are like, we're just very short. We see a big screen and usually we all in the screen. And so right now we're very small, all of us. And then we see Madame Mayor and Yvonne, the office, but it's not separated equally. Maybe it's me again that doesn't know what to do, but I've been trying and it's not working. And so is there an explanation for that? Or is it only me? Because right now, the only thing I see big, it's Yvonne, Conseiller Yvonne and Madame Mayor.
I think it's you, Lise. I think you need to go up to the top corner where it says view. You should see a bunch of squares.
Yeah.
And you
Gallery view.
yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Send me your bill. I'll put it on ice. Okay, let's start with Conseiller Dan. Could you explain your request? And like I said, we'll go around for comment after.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish to bring an addition to the procedure bylaw, and more specifically covering the special meetings and emergency meetings. Right now, it states the head of council may at any time summon a special meeting or an emergency meeting. I want to add that upon notice from the head of council, which would be the mayor, the clerk will be advised to ensure all council members are provided with times and dates to choose from. Every effort shall be made to accommodate the participation of all council members. Because now what's happened is that in certain circumstances in the past, we've had meetings canceled because people couldn't juggle their schedule. And then I'd like to see 2.32, upon receipt of the petition from the majority of the member of council or committee, the clerk shall summon a special meeting for the purpose and at the time mentioned in the petition. So basically what I'm asking is that we be respectful of our time. This is no different from other committees that I sit on. In fact, I showed to some of my colleagues notice that I got from DSAB where we're having a special meeting, and they basically did what I just explained. Sent out a petition asking what time people are available, and then immediately we got back to them, and we were going to initiate a meeting, and we've had quorum. I think it not only is respectful for us as council members, it's respectful for staff, because staff, they could have had something that's being organized that night, and the meeting that's been called with no going to other people for it. And unfortunately, they have to change their plans, or we don't have them at the meeting. So that's what I'd like to see. Maybe the wording can be changed, but this is basically the concept behind my request.
Thank you, Councillor Senecal. Councillor Revida. Now I'll go with Conseiller Yvon for comment. We're going to have a discussion and comment and discussion. And then after that, if I'll ask again if there's anything to add. And I'll be the last one to pass. And we're not going to go back to every comment that everybody has said, because I mean, if it's really different, you raise your hand. But I mean, we're trying to find ways to try to accelerate so we can do everything in one evening. So Conseiller Duhaime, what do you think? Any comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A special meeting cannot be called sooner than 24 hours. So the head should summons a meeting, and you're given 24 hours for notice. I guess the question I have is, are the meetings to be held in the evening? Who can answer that? Do you answer that, Madam?
Well, customarily, all special meetings and meetings of council have always taken place in the evening.
Okay, so with that being said, I don't seem to have a problem with that, as long as we follow the special meeting procedure. I think 24 hours is ample time to prepare yourself, and as long as they're held in the evenings, I have no problem with that. I status quo with the original
Procedure.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Chris now.
So I think, maybe Dan might want to just send out the example that he's got so that people can understand it a bit better. It seems entirely reasonable to me. It's just it's an administration thing. I see nothing wrong with doing it. Thank you.
Okay, so what you're saying, if I can take, is that you would be in favor of the change, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go to Councillor Larabie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also in agreement with what Councillor Revida is trying to put forward. Is if there were more than one date, there were 3 or 4 dates that the clerk could send to us, and then we could choose which date accommodates the best, and the clerk would know. So it would accommodate everyone. Is at night. Definitely, maybe it'd be better during the day. Who knows? But at least if you'd have different timeline, you can choose, and she would know exactly when it would accommodate everyone, and then we just move forward with that. So I do support the changes. Thank you.
Okay, Madame la Mairesse.
Well, I can't support the recommendation, but I'd like to explain why. I believe that the reason it was brought forward is because the mayor did summon a special meeting on September 25th. Normally, when I do summon a special meeting, my first priority as mayor is to communicate with the clerk and having the dialogue with the clerk to determine their availability. When that meeting was summoned on September 25th, I always try to make sure that the timeline exceeds 24-hour notice. On the 25th, the timeline was for the special meeting of September 29. So there was a 4-day notice. And of course, it does happen. It's reality in the past. And I suspect that in the future, there's always going to be the challenge of trying to have a meeting where a special meeting or an emergency meeting where all of us can be available. That's life, that's reality. We see it on boards, we see it at different committees, and their procedures are not changed to try to accommodate 100%. We didn't even have 100%, or we didn't have quorum to be able to call a special meeting to continue a regular council meeting to finish off the items that we didn't have the time to do it. I also want to highlight that the Municipal Act states exactly the wording that we have in our procedural bylaw. And I also took the opportunity to verify procedural bylaws of other municipalities, and I can name you at least 20. The ones that I verified, the language is identical. And the reason it's identical, it's because it's legislation. So it's not something that we try to change to make it suited on a personal level to make sure that we have everyone at the table. So unfortunately, for those reasons, I cannot support what the recommendation is being brought forward.
Thank you, Madame Mayor. Conseiller Denis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, my opinion is that a bylaw change will not change the political attitude on the council. So it doesn't really matter what bylaw we have. If we can't get along, we'll never have those special meetings. And it's not an issue of bylaw, it's other issues. So I don't support changing the bylaw. Thank you.
So if there's any other comment that is different from what we heard, and Monsieur Léo, j'ai pas fini. Tu vas pouvoir.
Yeah, but you went through me. You didn't ask me at
Oh
all.
well, you should. As soon as I miss your turn, Councillor, sorry, I apologize. You should tell me, okay, please, because it's very hard. I got 3 different places that I have paper. My bad. So I'm sorry. Next time, just raise your hand, and I'll look at the thing, and I'll know. Sorry, Conseiller Léo.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I do
No,
that
no.
every meeting. So if that's the worst thing I do, I think I will be okay with the way I manage the meeting. So.
Apology accepted, Councillor Lee. That's fine. No, I support Councillor Dan's request for to amend the bylaw, and it's really it's clear, and then there's no animosity against the head of council. They just have 2 different dates or 3 different days for staff and all of us, and that's why I support the resolution to amend the bylaw. Thank you.
So is there any different comment before I make my comment? And because I kept track of what people had said, the way status quo or the change. So any comment? 1, 2, 3, I'm going. I'm just going to say that I don't support for the following reason. I mean, we've been operating with that forever. There many times that we don't have quorum, and that will happen again. Right now, I think the dilemma is it's 4 against 4 most of the time on very controversial issue. And I'm not saying that's okay or not okay, but I mean, we're not going to solve it. Obviously, if I would really want that to try to protect in case I cannot be in, and I will still have able not to have a meeting. So for me, I'm in good health, hopefully. I did participate the last time at not the last meeting, but when I have a death in the family, and it's not easy, but I have to do my job. It's a paid job. And even if nobody's going to get rich, I can understand that. And the second thing, I don't support it. I think in the past, we have people that went on vacation in January, many councillors, which I don't judge, good for them, but they missed 2-3 weeks. And so it's a reality. It's a municipal act, so I don't support it. So that's mean we're stating status quo. So next on the agenda is the workplace harassment policy. And we have a memo from Madame Alicia here, and I will I'm going to give you the floor, Alicia, and then we'll go around to have comment and answer question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Senecal. Yeah, so it's a revision of our prior workplace violence and harassment policy, and it really is just a cleaning up of the prior policy. The prior policy, though correct, was a little bit unwieldy in that it had a lot of it just copied and pasted sections of the legislation. It had a lot of very specific items as far as very specific incidences, and so we'd look to just make it a little bit more streamlined, a little bit clearer for both the employees and for management using the policy. Outline, a little bit clearer how the process of complaints and the follow through on complaints does occur. And other than that, it's just, as I said, repackaging it into a tidier format.
Well, thank you very much, Elisa. It's well done. It's there's a lot of things, like you said, that it's you got everywhere. It doesn't matter where you work, you're gonna have some portion because it was made really. I think that link and on for the 168, they call that the Bill 168, violence in the workplace, and it's part of the health now and safety. So I will go. I'll start with Conseiller Duhaime. Do you have any question? Conseiller Duhaime?
Okay, sorry.
No, I don't. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so that's fast. Conseiller Fisher, you have a question?
Yeah, I could just ask a quick question. So the risk assessment piece, was that in there already? And that's just carryover, or is that new? And is there like I wouldn't know how to fill that in. Is there sort of a training component for the manager that has to fill that in, or?
Alicia, you can answer, but it's.
Yeah, the risk assessment piece was actually not included in the last policy, and it was an omission, so that we needed to have the risk assessment in there. The risk assessment is actually being done by managers as part of our walkthroughs and as part of our health and safety right now. That said, Councillor Fisher, when the new policy is in place, we will go back and sort of train and refresh for all of our managers and our employees on the policy and the procedures in the policy.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Now I am Conseiller Larrabee.
Thank you. No comment.
Conseiller Léo, je tape te faire passer en premier, mais là, je t'oublie pas au moins. Conseiller, as-tu des questions à poser? Do you have any questions?
No, that's fine. Thanks, Alyssa, for the update. Yeah, our support. Thank you.
Okay, Conseiller Dan.
Good job, Elisa. It's very, it's cut and dry, and basically people know where they fit in it. Thank you.
Conseiller, non, Madame la mairesse. Des questions?
Wait, I want to say thank you. This is going to be revising an existing policy that was dated back to 2015, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I did have on page 6, the last two bullets, number 5 and number 6. I'd like to see number 5, if there's an opportunity that we can provide a more descriptive definition of the type of report. So it's not ambiguous if ever there's a need to apply this policy, that it defines the report, because when I was reading it, it makes reference to a written report, but summarizing. So I know that historically this issue came up. So if that could be maybe added to the policy, that would be appreciated. It would avoid any confusion. And for number 6, I don't know, but I believe when I was looking on the provincial website, they do specify timelines of when parties need to be notified of the outcome of an investigation. So is it possible to add a timeline for the notification to the affected parties? That would be 2 of my recommendations. And the previous page, on page 5, when it comes to the procedures, it talks about the workers, the supervisors, the different levels, but there's no reference pertaining to elected officials or councils. So can there be a bullet that also provides a description, for council as well? Apart from that, I think it's pretty well straightforward, very descriptive, and I think probably more in line with what the provincial complaint process mechanism has on their website. So thank you for this update, greatly appreciated.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Maintenant, conseiller Sénécal, Denis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good work, Alicia. And just have 2 comments, I guess. One is page 6 of 13, number 7, that the investigator finds the harassment occurred, the respondent may be disciplined up to and including termination. So is that a may or will be, or I think that's pretty broad, general, may. I don't like to see that there, but
Obviously, it depends on the severity of the complaint and the facts of the complaint. So it wouldn't be that the respondent will be, terminated or anything like that. It is.
well, it says may be disciplined. So if you harass somebody, you may be disciplined or may not. I don't know who's going to judge that. I don't agree with that. May should be changed to be a little more powerful. And my second comment is that if we're going to work with this document, I think we should take the opportunity to look around, see what's out there. I'm certainly sure there's good ones. Big companies like Kinko and these guys I'm sure they have super workplace harassment policies, so we have something to compare. It's hard for me anyways to compare when I have nothing, other documents to compare with. I'm sure we're following the municipal act, but we need to be a little more specific, and I think it's the right time now because we've been told in the past that our workplace harassment policy wasn't too strong. So I think we should have a serious look at it and look at what's out there. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Any other comment before? Conseiller Dan? Anybody else? Okay, Conseiller Dan?
Madam Chair, the mayor made 2 recommendations, more specifically number 6 and number 5 and number 6. However, you didn't let Lisa comment on whether they made sense or not. And the other thing of including the electrical, those that are elected also. So Lisa, could you answer those, please? Comment on that?
Yeah, so regarding the timelines, there is actually a line up above that says that the investigation will be completed in a timely manner and generally within 90 days or less. So we do already have timelines in there with the commentary that extenuating circumstances may lead to a longer investigation and therefore the subsequent report, and which would then affect how the complainant and respondents are informed. We certainly can look, as you know, when you're looking at definitions, and I'll have to go back and look. I think the definition sort of that everyone is kind of considered worker, which would then apply to counselors as well. But we can just make those definitions a little bit more clear as far as how council reports who is a worker and how does council fit into that part of things. And I wasn't actually sure from what the mayor was asking as far as clarifying what the written report was. So there's kind of a detailed amount of what needs to go into the investigation. The report's going to sort of summarize what's gone into the investigation. I'm not sure what else the mayor was looking for to make clarity on number 5.
Madam Mayor, would you be able to explain? Alicia, a good question.
Yeah, I think number 5, the report that is handed back, the type of report that will be provided. Is it going to be a detailed report that's going to highlight he said, she said, or is it just going to be a summary report from the investigator providing the outcome and the methodology on the process that was used? So I just wanted to make sure that the type of report would be defined. And when I talk about timeline, it's not the timeline of when the investigation is completed. It's the timeline of the notification to the complainant and to the respondent once the investigation is completed. I believe the province does identify that it's very prescriptive. Once an investigation is completed, the parties need to be notified within a prescribed time. So I was hoping that the policy would identify that as an example. Is it 10 days after the completion that the respondent and the complainant are notified? I just want to make sure that if we're working towards a policy which is more conducive to the one of the province, that it's really clear.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes, Alicia.
Now I understand what you're looking for with the report. So number 5 is actually talking about that detailed report reflecting the investigation. So it's going to reflect number 4, the steps from number 4 above it. That won't be the same as the notification that will go out to the complainant and respondent. So the detailed report will be put together by the investigator, but the notification that goes out to the respondents will not necessarily be that detailed report. So that's why 6 is different. But so I think that number 5 is defined by number 4 above it. And then and certainly we can take a look at timelines for notification going back out to complainants and respondents. We can take a look at putting something in there.
So Alicia, do you have any questions so far? To Madame Mayor, like, is it clear what she, because it was, okay. So I just want to say I was keeping that to go back to you to make sure before, because at this point of time it was just discussion. So that's why you were not asked before, but thank you very much. So I won't have to ask you that. You might have, I do also have question. It's no big deal. Thank you very much. I think it's a very good one. And I think there's something we've been waiting for, obviously, because it's been spoken before, but I have one, and it's not a concern as much, well, it's a concern for the staff, okay? Because everywhere it referred to that if it's a staff, they would, the complaint would be handled by the, what do they call, the corporate director, which would be who in the municipality? I think it's you, Alicia. Okay, so, but I'm going to say you, why I'm saying that. I have no issue with you handling the complaint. It's just the fact that the council have only one employee, and it's Jay, and Jay is in charge of all the other employee. I don't think it's right for you to have to deal, for example, if you have your immediate colleague as Stefan or Mel, that you have to, not to say that you will not be able to do it. I'm sure you're more than capable of doing it, but I think it would put you on the spot. I think Jay is responsible for all the employee, and I have a little bit of issue with that. And on top of that, imagine if a complaint would be sent against our CEO. There's no way you're like, he's responsible for you. So I just want to protect yourself and you, because I have no doubt that you could do it. I mean, it's handling, yes, I will. I would let you would be able to handle a lot. I have no problem with that. You can handle our accounting, you can handle a complaint. But my concern, yes, Jay, I will, can I finish my comment and come back to you? Because
I thought you were.
You want, well, no, I have other question about the report. So we're going to deal with that one. Is that what you want me to do? Go, Jay, answer that.
Well, it could shorten it. The reason that the director of corporate services is named is on legal advice, because the head of the organization at other levels may have to intercede. So it's a kind of a dual protection thing. So, but that doesn't mean that she would be looking after any investigation and the reporting of investigation that goes to that would go to council about me. It would just be that the process of making sure that the investigation is done is abided by, but certainly she would have no role to play in determining my guilt or innocence.
No,
But
I know
anyway,
that.
just on that. Yeah.
Okay, so if I can rephrase what you're saying, I understand what, I think I understand what you're saying, that she would not be handling the investigation, obviously, because it's clear in the report. So that's not what my concern was. My concern was about Alicia herself as a staff having to receive complaint of colleague, close colleague, and then, so that's only my
what she
concern.
does. That's her title. That's what she does.
Yeah, okay, so anyways, for me, it's a good policy. That's a question I have. I have my answer, which I don't have to agree or whatever, but I'm just saying my concern. And the second one, it's on page 5, procedure of reporting workplace harassment. I think when I reread it and again, I can make sense of it. But when you first read it, worker may report incidents of workplace harassment verbally or in writing to their supervisor. The report should be complete in writing using the complaint form. I mean, and then it's got to be in writing, or for me, it's hard to understand for a point of view. I understand that it's two different things. They can report it verbally. I guess a supervisor would do a report and she would fill out the form. Is that what it means, Alicia?
That's correct. So that if
Okay.
the employee doesn't do the form, when they report to the supervisor will do the form. Yes.
Okay, so, but can you understand that sometimes it could be ambiguous to understand what, because it's in one sentence said you can say it verbally or in writing, and the second one they said to do it in writing. So, and you have the example in investigation that it said in writing. Then I have 90 days, the investigation must be complete. That's okay. And I do have also the may. I know that zero tolerance doesn't mean zero tolerance, but it doesn't mean that nothing's gonna happen. And may, for me, it's like something else and must. So I think what that we gotta find another way to say there will be consequence applied. And like I said, it doesn't have to be, could be up to termination, but I need to be a little bit more stronger word than and it's not big change to be made. I think we can have that revise and have the resolution if those changes are supported or not supported. But tonight we need to decide the direction we gotta go. So I personally not gonna say nothing right now, but who wants the form to be, not the form, the policy to be put on a resolution at next council meeting? So, and without no change. So am I clear? I think that's a wish. I can ask a question, Mel? Okay, so, and because I'm going to be asking the second question, who want to approve the policy we have in front of us, but some few change, and Alicia already said that there's something that can be done and look into it. But I mean, the change that's been mentioned, one was clarified, and I think we have two, me and Councillor Denny, that said the must. So that's a question. So who's in favor of supporting the bylaw as is right now presented to us tonight without any amendment? So a show of hands, I can count it like that. I have 1, I have 2, I have 3, I have 4. Okay, so again, I'm gonna have the question.
Lise,
Yes.
You confused me a bit there because the amendments that you're talking about, minor amendments. I mean, I supported with those minor amendments.
Okay, but you, that's what I asked, if you support it like that. So you're supporting with minor. Okay, well, there's a difference, Councillor. I'm trying to be clear here because there's a.
Okay, just move on.
So you understand, Mel, what Madam Mayor, but not Madam Mayor, Alicia, not Alicia either. Mel, is that clear?
I do. I think maybe Elisa just needs concurrence on the clarifications that council's looking for and the changes to the policy.
Actually,
Well,
I think I'm okay, Mel. I think I've got that. So yeah.
So you okay, Alicia?
Yep.
Okay, so then we can, Alicia will bring something else. Well, not, will be brought to the next meeting to be, to adopt the resolution. Okay? Then we go to OPP billing statement. So again, Alicia, it's you that's got to be, or you and Jay, imagine that's got to be talking, can answer the question. So who wants to start? We have the billing, we have the report for 2020, what the prediction is, and we have the report that for the year 2019. So who wants to go? Alicia or Jay?
I can start if you like. And I'm going to start backwards. This is really for information, in that, you know, so this is just their reconciliation of what they billed us in 2019 versus what the actual costs were. So there was a little bit of they overbilled us a little bit during the year, and they're transferring that amount forward to 2021. You've already seen how our overall policing budget came in for 2019, and we ended up with a kind of a bigger surplus to that, and that's kind of old news, because we would have looked at that much earlier in the year. But this is just the full summary of just the OPP contract part for 2019. If you're reading the notes on it, you'll see, you know, some of the difference between what was originally forecast and what came through in 2019 was just due to a delay in hiring some bodies, because their proposal to us was for 22.3 uniform personnel, 18 rolled over, and so they just had to kind of pick up some of those extra bodies to sort of fill in that. And then when we look at the 2021, this will become significant again when we look at budget for 2021. So that's what they're looking at, the estimated policing costs. It's very similar to what we had projected back in 2017 and have kind of rolled forward. So it's right in line with where we thought we were going to be. It is sort of just as a note in my memo that 2021 will be the second year of the full year where we do this type of costing proposal. So we've done 2020, we do 2021, we do 2022, and then we get to roll to the calls for service model at that point. So we're kind of midway through, and there's no surprises here, and we'll see this again at budget time.
Okay, I'll go around. Conseiller Yvon. Your mic is shut.
Same way, my fault.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Alyssa. The report is great. I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So no comment, no question. Conseiller
No.
Fisher.
Nothing for me. It's right in line with what we expected. Thank you.
Then Conseiller Larrabee.
No, everything's okay. It was presented to us the first time many years ago, and things didn't change. Everything was repeated time and again, so it's still the same. Thank you.
Okay, Conseiller Leo.
No questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Conseiller Dan.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, that's a meeting going to be fast tonight. Madame la Mairesse.
Thank you. I just had a few questions. I was just curious, does the court security, is it included or excluded part of the budget, or is it a separate budget item? Because I was trying to follow the flow of the documents and.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
The court security is part of the budget that you already see. So they just break it out because we have to report separately on it, but it is not,
Okay.
It's included in the numbers there.
Okay. And when I was looking at the 2019 and the forecasted budget for 2021, both have notes pertaining to accommodation and the cleaning contract, because they say that's the municipality's responsibility. So am I right to assume that when they say accommodation, that's either the temp location and then the new build, right? Those are additional costs, not part of the budget.
It's not part of their budget to us, correct?
Okay, good. And what happens with the 2020 budget? They're giving us the forecast for 2021.
Yeah.
But not the 2020.
So we had it 2020, and you wouldn't have seen it in this format, but it was reflected in our budget for 2020, but they had given us a budget for 2020 as far as the billing as well. So
Okay.
some point next year, we'll get the reconciliation for 2020 as well. And then we'll just kind of keep rolling that 1 year drag.
Okay, and I'm not sure, maybe you can explain it. I thought it was an error, maybe it's not. But after the 2021, when you look at the OPP 2019 reconciled cost summary, they have 2018 cost recovery formula. Is 2018 an error, or should it have reflected 2019? It's just a small bold line. I just made the assumption maybe it was an error. Yeah, probably it is, because it's the reconciliation for 2019.
I'm not sure where you're looking, Madam Mayor.
The pages are not numbered. It's the page 1, 2, 3, 4. If you go backwards, page number 4. The heading is OPP 2019 reconciled cost summary for West Nipissing, reconciled cost for the period of June 6 to December 31st, 2019. And then they have a heading where you've got the columns for the numbers identified as 2018, or maybe it is 2019. It's so small. I read it as 2018.
No.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what they do for their direct operating expenses. The part down at the bottom, that always lags a year for them as well. So they set up their 2019 numbers will be based on their 2019 assumptions by the 2018 actuals. So it might be that they just carried the wrong number to the top. Yeah.
Okay. And just to clarify for the call for service model, 2020, 2021, 2022, then we're moving on to the call for service model in 2023. Would that be correct? Okay, yeah. I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. Okay, and I know with the agreement that we signed with the OPP, they outline exactly the process, like, they submit their budget to us, we receive it, we review it. We acknowledge receipt. Would it be best practice that we adopt a resolution saying that the forecasted budget for 2021 has been received for the amount of so-and-so? And then when we move on to actuals or budget process, at least we have numbers that we can backtrack without keeping hard copies of all of this?
I have to see what our contract, go back and see what our contract said as far as the acknowledgement and things like that. Okay. Certainly, like I said, you'll see this again from us internally at budget time. So I'll take a look at what the contract said as far as acknowledgement and what kind of acknowledgement they would like.
Okay, because they say if we fail to make an acknowledgement, it's deemed to be received and accepted. Mm-hmm. But I just thought it'd be proper. It would be proper etiquette if we just adopted a resolution saying that we received the budget and that we approved the budget as presented and specifying the amount. Mm-hmm. Anyway, those are my recommendations. I was just trying to follow the agreement that we approved in 2018. In 2019.
Okay, so is that Denis, Conseil Denis, a question?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, so did I miss somebody? No, except me. So my only question is that like what was the projection for the 221 again? The total? I got it. I'm gonna find it, but maybe somebody could have say something. I think 2021 was bottom line was. Can somebody tell it before I? Okay, it was 4,487,501. Is that what it is for the 21?
Yep.
Okay, so is that number? Because when I'm looking at, and I have the thing that the 219 and 220 budget, when I'm looking at it, the total, the bottom line is 4,439,000 and almost 440. But there's the 254, 270 that comes from the reserve. So when we go to 221, when the number they gave us, that it's costing us, because this is what's going to be costing us, is that include the minus the money that we already put as a municipality, like the 254,000. I think it was for 5 years, or I don't know if it was that long. I don't recall, but I know that number will come out every month, every year for a number of years, right? Or every month, I'm not sure.
Right. So there's two things at play. This is the OPP's budget to us for their service. When we do the police budget at budget time, it will include the OPP contract. It's going to include our facility cost. It's going to include, like I said, that transfer to reserve that we have for transfer from reserve for a couple of years that we have until we get onto that calls for service model and things like that. So yes, the budget's going to show a whole lot of other stuff beyond just this.
Okay,
this contract
so
here.
for example, if it only would be the $259,000, let's say that we have to take into consideration, it would be subtracted for that amount because we're going to take it from the reserve. So we're not going to get it from taxes, right? Well, basically.
And there is some revenue attached to the policing
Okay.
budget as well, because we do have
Yeah.
some grants. So there are some
Yeah.
things attached to it. Yes. Yep.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well then, that conclude the part of general government. Thank you very much. Sorry again, Councillor Noel. I don't know, I always want to call you Marcel Noel, Leo. So sorry to have missed
Councillor-
you on one turn.
Councillor Lees, you have another agenda item.
Oh, the bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Dan. With you and Councillor Fisher to help me, I'm okay. I can proceed. So the number, all those papers, it's the bylaw regarding animal bylaw, right? And it's from a letter, we have received 2 letters, if I remember correctly, one from a resident and one from a service provider. And we also will include the whole policy that we had before, and a letter from a concerned resident saying that we don't really, when we look at the other municipality, we have lower number, we're allowed lower numbers. So Mel, can you talk about it? Did I summarize it pretty much the way it was supposed to be? Feel free to.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And long ago and far, far away, before all of this happened, as the chair's indicated, we did have a letter from a resident with concerns with regard to numbers of pets permitted. And as a result, it's looking at our animal control bylaws. We had a cat bylaw and we had a dog bylaw, and both of them were a little bit out of date, and it was time to take a look at ramping them up. There were some suggestions made by councillors at the time with regard to some items that we might want to include, and I tried to catch everything. We did a lot of research. Some places are super restrictive, some places are very liberal. We tried to balance what West Nipissing's needs are against what people's needs are. So the bylaw before you is up for discussion.
And do you have a specific recommendation before we start, Mel, or?
I don't have any recommendation. I do recall there was a discussion at the time, and the one thing that does stick in my mind is there was a discussion about whether or not there should be differences for people who live in the country and people who live in town. And I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I know it certainly makes sense that if you live in an apartment in town, that 6 dogs is probably not the best idea, but if you live on a big farm where you got wolves and things, maybe 6 dogs is a good thing. So I leave it to council to discuss whether or not we should make that differentiation and how we would want to draw that line, I guess.
Okay, then we'll start the discussion. Conseiller Duhaime?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, I think we should look at the possibility of drawing a line between municipal and farmland, and I would agree with that. But within the municipality itself, I do agree status quo with the number of animals in the community. You know, when we're talking to, you know, drawing a line and differentiate a certain aspect of something else with respect to apartment buildings and apartment complexes where there are multiple dwellings. You know, and I've come across this situation a few times where a person within one of the dwellings is highly allergic to cats in particular, so. You know, the problem is to try to govern the situation where it could help the person in question and disallow people having, you know, signing an agreement, disallowing them to have whatever animal. Because once they get in the apartment, they'll bring in a cat or a dog or whatever, and there's not very much you can do about it. Now, I'm just wondering if we can add that on in the animal control, so that if there's a situation where a person signs a piece of paper claiming that, you know, once you move into this complex, because of the problems we have with people with allergies, that you cannot have an animal. Is that possible, Mel? Is that possible?
Through you, Madam Chair, unfortunately, no, Councillor Tim, that becomes a civil matter between the landlord and the tenant and a lease dispute that the municipality doesn't really have the right to intervene on. We can only govern, you know, sort of on a global basis. These are the rules.
Okay, because it would just make it easier if a bylaw officer could control the situation. Okay, that's all. But I would agree with having a difference between the country and the municipality. But I still feel that status quo with the animal control bylaw as it stands.
Okay, Conseiller Fisher.
So if I can direct everyone to page 3 of the bylaw, where Melanie has laid out the residential zones, because that's exactly, I think that was the intention that we wanted to do earlier, was basically, you know, the way the bylaw reads currently was sort of making a lot about rural residents criminals, essentially. So if you just look on page 3 and page 4, it's laid out residential 1, 2, 3, shoreline residential, and then we get to rural residential, Ag 1, Ag 2, and rural. So my thought would be to keep the status quo for R1, R2, R3, R4, SR, and mobile home residents, and then rural residentials and rural and Ag 1 and Ag 2 can be 5 and 5 rather than 2 and 2. So that gives you a rural urban split. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's much better than what we've got. And I just think that's it's quite a logical thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Fisher. Conseiller Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a fair compromise, what Councillor Fisher has just mentioned, and it also goes in line with what Councillor Yvonne just stated. Definitely, we in the rural areas, then we could go with what Sudbury has, 5 and 5, and in town, then we keep status the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Conseiller Larrabee. Conseiller Mallette, maintenant. Oui, je voulais dire merci. Je voulais dire merci à Conseiller Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I like Chris' compromise with the urban and the rural, and I would support that. Okay.
Okay. Conseiller Denis.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Conseiller Denis, excuse-moi, c'est Madame la mairesse qui est la prochaine.
Laisse-moi donc parler, là.
Non, tantôt. Okay, Madame la mairesse, ton tour.
I think it's Councillor Dan Revita.
Councillor Dan. Oh, geez. Sorry, Dan.
Oh, that's all right. Okay, I'm off mute. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Fisher and Councillor Rowley and Councillor Yvonne. I know that from DSAT's perspective, we've had some issues where people, even within the municipality, had more than 2 and 2, and we had to ask help from our bylaw officers, because when you have 6 or 7 cats in one place, it causes havoc and causes us issues when we try to fix up the place once the individual leaves. So I agree with what Councillor Chris proposed. Thank you.
Madame Ramirez.
It definitely needs an update. It's so, I recall when that was discussed so many years ago. I'm looking at a compromise as well, because I mean, like the bylaw, when it was put into place many moons ago, things have changed since then. I know a lot of people in the urban area, which are R1, R2, R3, R4, and they do have more than 2 dogs. Some of them have 3 or 4 little chihuahuas. So I mean, if we go that way and we say, let's keep it status quo 2 for R1, R2, R3, R4, it means these people automatically are going to be violating the bylaw. I'd go a step further because along with Councillor Dan, with when it comes to row houses where you have a multitude of units which are attached, you can identify where these units are located and managed by whom. They're customarily either managed by DSAB or managed by a not-for-profit board. We should maintain status quo, and I don't know if we can do that, so I'm going to direct the question to our clerk. Can we identify that a specific type of dwelling, like row houses, are going to be restricted to 2 dogs and 2 cats? Can we do that in the bylaw?
Through you, Madam Chair, not like that. We would have to, as has been proposed, we have to do it by zone in order to be fair. Those kinds of dwellings would fall into the R4 category, which would include apartment buildings, anything more than 8 units in one spot is R4. So I don't know that we could. I could certainly look into it, but I'm not entirely sure that we can differentiate in the type of ownership. Okay. Or specifically, you know, row housing could be, it can be interpreted different ways.
Okay.
I'd have to look into it to see.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, because I'm trying to also address the issue of the letter that we got for the West Nipissing not-for-profit housing, and to make sure that we don't create a problem more than what the some are already experiencing. I don't have a problem with the rural aspect and increasing the numbers, but I'm really concerned with individuals that do reside in the R1, R2, R3 that do have more than 2 dogs. And I don't know if here again, there's an opportunity for a compromise where we can say that within those zones, instead of saying 2 dogs and 2 cats, could it be a combination of not more than 4 of? So can they have, like, as an example, 3 dogs, 1 cat, or have 3 cats, 1 dog? Do we have that flexibility where we can have that compromise for the R1 to the R3?
We have the flexibility to whatever we decide at this table.
Okay. So, and that would probably resolve the issue for individuals that reside in the residential, in the zoning R1, R2, R3, instead of saying 2 dogs and 2 cats, as long as they do not have more than a total of 4. And then this way, we know that we're not amending a bylaw where there's going to be so many people that are going to be violating the bylaw, because right now we probably know of many individuals that don't conform to the bylaw. So that would be my recommendation, but I did have some specific questions pertaining to the language of the bylaw. I'd also want to make sure that there's an exemption for a rescue shelter, because I'm only aware that there is one, which is located in the community of Verner. And what they do is they basically rescue animals at large, and they attempt to rehome them. So I would just want to make sure that we have some conducive language that they would be exempted, because at given times, they would exceed the number which is identified in the bylaw. I'd also make the recommendation that we revisit the fee structure, because I really appreciated the report, the analysis that you gave us in comparison to other municipalities. To have a license for a fee of $4 for a nurtured dog that is microchipped seems extremely low to the structure of the fees for the comparison chart that we were given. So maybe that should be adopted, changed as well. And I wanted to know, when it comes to licensing fees, who issues the licenses and what type of marketing do we do? Because I don't think we're capturing a lot of licenses in West Nipissing for people that do become owners of either dogs or cats. Because I know at the beginning, the intent was that we had a physical presence of the Humane Society in West Nipissing, but it doesn't seem that we have an active presence of the Humane Society on a full-time basis in West Nipissing. They only respond to emergencies.
Okay, any other comment?
Well, I'm asking a question like...
To who? To whom?
Well, I guess I'll just ask Mel, when it comes to licensing, does the municipality promote that? Or is it the Humane Society that does the marketing? Who issues the licenses?
Through you, Madam Chair, the answer to who issues them, we issue them, and the Humane Society also issues them. We sell them at the front counter, and the Humane Society, if they pick up an animal that's unlicensed, they require that you pay for a license before you can get your dog or cat back. But I don't know that we do any active promotion with regard to animal licensing. It's more of a voluntary thing, and for people who, conscientious animal owners who want to, if their animals are lost, that they would want to get them back.
Okay, that answers that question. Apart from that, those are the issues for the time being, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I know that some of you have questions, but I'm going to go around. Councillor Rowley, did I miss you? Councillor Rowley?
Yeah, okay, yes, no, I was finding the mute button here. No,
Okay.
it's just a comment that was made that the,
No, Rowley, I just want to know if I missed you, Councillor Rowley, before.
no, you-
Okay, well, okay, so
No.
the way I want to go is because I have Councillor Dan that have his hand up, and after that, Conseiller Fisher, and then it was Conseiller
Perfect.
Okay,
My
so I'll
turn?
go around a
Perfect,
second turn.
perfect.
I'll go
Madam-
around a second turn.
Madam
Yes,
Chair?
I'm going to finish the comment, Conseiller Denis. I'm just explaining that I'm gonna go to you before and me before, and then we gotta go around. So to be fair, so comment we'll have a second time around. So Conseiller Denis, it's your turn now.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I had one question before I start to Melanie. Not specified, does that mean they don't have a limit, or it's not clear? It says number of permitted dogs, not specified in the bylaw. Is that what they're saying? There's
And
no
that's
limit?
correct. That's
There's no,
right now.
there's no limit. Like
Not,
North,
there's, we've, can you just point me to what you're looking at?
well, in
Councillor
the chart
Senecal?
there, like North Bay has not specified.
Oh, yes, where it says not specified, it means that there's nothing in that bylaw that limits numbers.
Okay, thank you. I just,
Sorry.
okay. So, okay, my comments are that I'm a dog lover, so I am not seeing two dogs. We're the lowest one in the northern district, I guess. I don't think that's right. We're not more urbanized than anybody else. We have we should have more than two dogs like everybody else. We're the lowest one. There's 3 dogs. 5 dogs, not specified. So I don't know why we would just stick to 2 dogs. This all started when the lady sent us the letter. She wanted to increase the limits of dogs, which I agree. And now we're into a whole shebang of bylaws. But anyways, I think we should raise the 2 dogs to maybe 3 dogs and 2 cats. And I like the suggestion of Madame Mayor that we could add like the dogs plus cat for a total, which would help in that way, I guess. And there should be like, if it's neutered or not neutered, there should be other exemptions. I think we're in the lower end. I don't know why. We're pretty well in the bush also. So we're just, I haven't seen a bylaw officer and I have 3 dogs. So I guess he might come in tomorrow morning. We'll wait for the bylaw. I'll have to hide one. I warned the dogs tonight that one has to go in the morning, so they have to decide. I don't know which one. I don't know which one's gonna go. But anyways, that's. I think what. The only thing is, I agree with Yvonne that apartment buildings and row houses, they should be somehow limited or whatever you say. But the others, I don't know even why we were not specify so an amount, but that's my opinion. And I think we should at least let the lady have some dogs. She wants 4, I think, or 2, whatever. So I think we should change that, but I guess I don't think everybody will agree with that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go with Conseiller Dan. You were the first one with your hand raised. So you still have your comment, or is it different, or your comment or something?
My comment is just a different in the
Okay.
sense, I could go with the 3 up to what Councillor Fisher agreed, and then 5 after that. I don't agree with having a combination of cat dog, because that you could have 4 cats in one place, and that would be 4 cats in one apartment. It's not cleanly. We'd have problems with our apartment buildings. We'd have problems with our row housing. So I think that, as far as I'm concerned, I'm totally against that. Not
Okay,
a but I'll go with
Okay.
what Councillor Seneca said, 3 and then 5 for the rest. Rule.
okay, so now the second one that had his hand raised was Conseiller Larrabee, and after that, it's you, Conseiller Mallette.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, well, just a comment that was made a while ago by the mayor saying that the chip, the price of once the animal is chipped is quite low to have it registered. And well, the thing is when you have an animal that's chipped, it could be identified. There's no way to lose it. So, and it's costing quite a bit to the owner to have it chipped. So that's why there is a reduction in the tag once your animal is chipped compared to just having it on the collar. So that is why. And the rest, well, I'm in agreement with what Councilor Rita just said. Thank you.
Okay, any other comment? I think Councillor Fisher, you said it though, you were when Alicia was talking. So you said your comment.
I just have one comment. So I was quite shocked to see that they have no limit at all in Sudbury, except for they do put a limit on unaltered animals. I guess they mean spayed, which I understand because when dogs that are rambunctious are generally the ones that haven't been, and cats too. I mean, they can breed like rabbits, cats. So I just wonder if we're not overthinking it a bit, because Sudbury manages to get away with no limits except for unfixed animals. So I agree, and I also agree about it's not a bad idea to keep our prices low the way they are. Not just the microchip, it's also that the animal is neutered, and that way you're not you don't have sort of feral cats and dogs running all over the place. So I have no problem agreeing to up it a little bit, and yes, we can keep it for the R4 stuff to a lower number, so that we're not getting too many in apartments. And I think that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I can say my comment. I agree that it was time we look at it. Anybody
Chair?
else? Yes?
Yeah, Madam
We-
Chair,
Okay,
Councillor Leo?
yes, you can talk.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I agree with the 2 and 2. I don't like the mayor's suggestion of having four cats or 4 dogs. So you can have 4 dogs in a small place, and then it would be fair for the neighbors. You have a small yard, so 2 and 2 in the urban, and the rest with 4 or 5, what it is, whatever Councillor Chris has suggested, and I would be okay with that, and stay with the 2 and 2. Thank you.
Okay, Conseiller Denis, one last comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just saying that if you're separating residential and urban, I mean, well, I'm living in a residential, but I'm in living, like, there's a big difference here from living in Sturgeon. So you can't penalize the whole district or all of West Nipissing for the drawbacks in Sturgeon. So, like, I'm a resident right here, so why should I be limited? I got lots of room. So, we have to take that into consideration also, I think. Thank you.
Okay, so I will say a last comment, Madam la Mayor, can I say my last comment? And because right now there is a sense of where it's going. So then after that, if that doesn't make sense, well, then people can talk again. But so far, I think if I take the comment of Councillor Rowley, Madame la Mairesse, some of your comment, Conseiller Revida, Conseiller Fisher, Conseiller Denis, I think you agree that the rural area like Field, or I think it's what is the number? It's R4 or R1, 2, 3? There's a difference. I think we got to make the difference between the rural region. That's clear. Because I don't think it's fair. I mean, sometimes you have a house and it takes you 5 minutes to get to the other house. So I think at that point of time, that's where we got to be flexible. Also, I do agree with Councillor Dan and Councillor Joanne and that meant about more than one unit. I think it's costing a bundle. Well, Councillor Dan mentioned DSAB, but we know at Chateau what it costs sometimes to repair, because it could be very damaging. And I think that would be R4 that we have to say that the lowest, like that they have 6 units. We cannot go, there's not a number to go lower than that we can have in our bylaw.
R4 is 8 units and up.
Okay, you don't have any R3, is
We
everything
have
under that?
R3 is anything between 3 and 8.
Okay, so we can go on a number. So we can say in R1, R2, it's 3 dogs. I think that was mentioned to go in town, so that we could go like that, and 3 cat. And then the rural is beside. We said that, yes, they should have more. So we can, I think it was up to 5. That was, I don't want to pick on you, Councillor Revida, but I think you said up to 5 in rural, which I think makes sense. And then by doing that, we're making sure that the status quo stay in the nonprofit right now, that we don't increase. And maybe it would be great if we could have lowered to 1 and 1. Also, as far as the 4 cat and 4 dog, and I think I would prefer to stay with the 2 dog, 2 cat, for the same reason that you have 4 dog in one apartment and they start having a party. My God, it's going to be ugly on the other apartment. And then if you have a 4 cat that they are not fixed, I don't know the real word, but fixed, you know what I mean? And they pee in the house, it's going to smell. So I think, but I think if we find a way that we satisfy the need in rural, that you increase the one in also by itself, and then as soon as you can get to 2 or 3, whatever you call it, units together, I think it should be decreasing the number, because they're not alone. They're not alone. I have an issue with that. So I don't know, Mel, if you can summarize what you heard.
There seems to be, I think there seems to be consensus on dogs, but there's a bit of a silence on the cat issue. I think I hear that primarily the 3 dogs in residential areas, so going from 2 to 3 in most of our residential other than our multi-res, and 5 in our rural areas. And just farm dogs that do protecting things, they're already exempt from this bylaw. So
Yeah.
if you have dogs that protect your farm, they're already exempt.
Yeah,
But there seemed to be consensus to have as many as 5 dogs in the rural and agricultural areas. But the cats are just, we would not, I don't think I have firm direction on the cats.
well, first of all, in the rural.
There seemed to be there was 3 people at the beginning who seemed to think that status quo with the 2 and 2 was a good thing. So that I get at least 3, maybe 4 people who are good with 2 cats in the residential zones. I'm just looking for consensus on the cats.
So I've moved on. I've moved on the cats. So you can't leave the cats out. If you're going to say 3 dogs, you got to say 3 cats.
Yeah.
So that would be my thought.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, because I'm a little unclear. So, Denny, are you saying that you live in R1, not rural, where you are?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll have to check my, well, Melanie would know.
You
have to
live
check
on
my-
you live on the lake, Councillor Senecal?
No, I'm on Carroll.
But on the water side?
No.
Or
Well,
on the
yeah,
roads?
there's water, but 2 miles down.
Okay, so you're probably rural residential.
Okay, so, okay,
So you would be in the 5 dog zone.
okay, so I'm safe tomorrow morning then.
You can bring them out of the closet.
I had a question, Madam Chair, and I wanted to be able
Yeah.
to get clarification. That's why I had my hand up.
I know, but Mayor, I understand what you're saying, but we went around in comment, and I would ask before closing, because I knew you were the last one that had your hand raised, so it's your turn now, because it's not over.
Okay, residential 1, is that a home on its own?
A single family dwelling.
A single family dwelling?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So any single dwelling owner that has 4 little pooches in their homes are going to be in violation of this bylaw. And I
If
can tell
adopted the
you-
way that's been proposed tonight,
Yeah.
yes.
So this is where I'm saying, when it comes to R1, which means it's a single dwelling, the numbers can be reflected higher than 3 or a combination of up to 4, because it's a home. So R2, is that a duplex?
A duplex or a semi.
Okay. And R3, well, you gave the definition in the R4. So there's recommendation that we look at decreasing the R3 and the R4 to 1 and 1.
I think it was leave it at 2 and 2.
Okay, well, I did hear some people.
Yeah, I
say
mentioned that it
1
would be
and 1.
nice, especially with the unit over 6, that it's minimized 1 and 1, because I think it's a lot having 1 cat and 1 dog. If you got 25 unit, can you imagine if everybody have a cat or a dog? That's my recommendation, but either way, I live in a house alone and I don't have any dogs.
Okay, well,
Or
why
cat.
don't you do a round, to help our clerk do a roundtable and find out when it comes to the R3 and the R4?
Okay,
Should it be lowered to 1 and 1? And that would resolve the issue for DSAB. It would resolve the issue for not-for-profit housing as well.
I wouldn't say would resolve, but it would help.
But it would help.
It would help
Thank you
definitely.
for clarifying my comment.
Okay, yes, Mel.
I just wanted to point out though that your R3 and your R4 also includes anybody who lives in apartments, any apartment buildings as well.
That's right. And I'm going to say that as per knowledge, we have some units that are managed by DSAB that are located in different communities. There's some in Field, some in River, in Verner, and there's other locations within the boundaries of West Nipissing.
Okay, but what,
So
I
what?
don't-
So
Okay.
between the definition of R3 and R4, Many of those units are managed by not-for-profit organizations or boards. So if there's a recommendation that maybe if we want to help alleviate the issue, the decrease should be 1 and 1 for R3 and R4.
Okay, we'll go around. So R1, R2, we gotta go one by one. I'm gonna start with R1. So how many, they were proposed 3 and 3, right? For those, so who agree with R1, 3 dog, 3 cat? Okay, so there's a conseiller Mallette, so that it's passed. R2, explain again, Mel, so we can be clear which kind of. Pardon me?
Duplexes and semis are R2.
Okay.
Two dwelling properties.
Okay, so even that, well, I'm sorry, Denny, we're going around.
Well, I just want to know what's our RTP, Mel?
What?
RTP.
We don't have any of that.
Well, that's what it says on my tax bill.
Oh, your tax class is different than your zoning.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'll go back to sleep. Thank you.
Okay, so oh God, R2 is duplex. So it was recommended maybe 1 dog and 1 cat each. Is that what? No, 2. So 2 dog, 2 cat, and R2. Who agree with that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I agree also. Okay, so, and R3 and 4, we're decreasing. We want to decrease to 1 dog and 1 cat because we're talking about the major unit together. That right? So who's in favor of decreasing 1 and 1 in R3 and R4? Who's in favor? Conseiller Mallette, Conseiller Vida. Going down to 1, I am in favor also. Anybody else? So I guess who's in favor are going 2 and 2. So Councillor Fisher, Conseiller Denis, so 2, Rolly, you 3. And I guess, so they were now 3. So there's other 2 that didn't vote, I guess. Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller, we didn't vote on that one. So I guess it's 2. Am I wrong? Did you count it?
For which zoning are you?
Number 3 and number 4.
So status quo.
Yeah.
Status quo, yeah.
Yeah, because I had said that to go to 1, but it didn't pass.
Well, yes, I counted the hands.
Well, I just went before, so R3, R4, and I said 1 and 1, and they said, no, everybody, we didn't pass. That's why I went to 2, Councillor Joanne, because I went by R1, R2, and then the last one, it did not. I went around.
Status quo.
So it's status quo. So, and then we go. Pardon?
It's Mayor Joanne. You call me.
Sorry. I bet you've been called worse in your life. Sorry. I apologize, Mayor Joanne. I don't do it often, but I apologize. So, geez, I will be apologizing so many times tonight. I'll beat my record. I can be a good person all week, the rest of the week. So now we're residential RR. What is there a limit? Or they can have as many dogs as they want. So some say no. So I'm gonna go, I need a limit. We have said 5 dogs. Is that okay? Who wants 5 dogs and the rural RR? So 1, 2, 3, they need 5 dogs in your side, or you don't want it? You want to vote against it, or?
I want not specified.
Okay, well, then you're not gonna, okay, so there's 4, there's 4, okay, Rolly, Dan, okay, Yvon, that's 4 already, and Madame Mayor, you didn't vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 5, and I'm all in favor of 5 dogs also.
Just a comment, Madam Chair.
And 5 cats.
Pardon me?
5 dogs and 5 cats.
No, just a comment in passing, because after 5 dogs, I don't know what the bottom, maybe Mel can answer me, is you need a kennel license after so many dogs. I know there's a bottle for that one too.
True.
The kennel, through you, Madam Chair, the kennel license speaks to the keeping of animals for boarding and for that sort of thing, not personal use dogs and cats.
So, and that we cannot forget to add a clause to protect the home for the, what Madame Mayor was mentioning. And Werner, I think it's really, really good. So they try to find a home for the animals. So we cannot specify a number for that, right? Yes, Mel?
If that's the going on, they really should be getting a kennel license. That would be operating a kennel. So they should be coming to the municipality and getting a proper license for that kind of operation if they already don't have that.
Okay, so they can be advised of that and then we can, but right now I think it's got to be to be exempted. So is that everything else that need to be added?
Well, at the risk of going around again, we didn't really touch on what is our shoreline residential zone, which
Of
would
what?
be all of our residents who live on the water. Typically lots of, 1 hectare or less in size. So all of our residents who live on Lake Nipissing and Cache Lake and all those places, would we want to treat them the same as our rural residential?
Well, I'm gonna go around. You want to treat the one living on the lake the same as RR. Conseiller Duhaime, yes or no?
No,
Okay. Conseiller Fisher.
So I would treat them as residential 1, and the other one we're missing is MHR, and I would also treat them as residential 1.
Okay, so but we deal with that, Councillor Fisher, and after maybe going to the one that was asked right now is beside the lake. So do you agree, yes or no, that they have the same standard at RR, which is maximum of 5 dogs?
No,
No?
I would say R1.
Okay, so you said no, and then I'm going to Conseiller Larrabee.
I'm going to say yes.
You're gonna say yes, and then I'm going to go to Conseiller
Leo.
Mallette.
Okay, no,
Bien, là, Mallette. No.
Okay. no, thank you.
Conseiller Ravida.
No. I was on mute.
Okay. Conseiller Sénécal. Ah, t'es mute, Denis. Conseiller Denis.
Is our 1, 3, and 3? Is that what?
Right now,
3 and 3.
what is,
Okay.
okay.
I agree with that. Not more than that.
Okay, not more than RR?
R1.
R1.
Oh,
R1.
okay. And R1, okay, so that's, I got 2 yes. I think Madame Lamar, you didn't vote, Madame Mayor.
So we're saying 3-3. That's what we're allowing R1, right?
That's correct.
So I would say yes. And I just
So-
want to,
Okay,
can I clarify the point pertaining to a kennel? The service that's being provided by a volunteer in the community is providing a temporary shelter, just a temporary shelter of animals at large. It's sort of a rescue because there's no other services like that in West Nipissing. And they rehomed them, so it's only temporary. So they're not really a kennel where they provide boarding too.
okay, thank you. Mel, you have a comment on that?
No, it's fine. So
Okay.
I think the direction is that the shoreline residential and the mobile home residential be the same as our R1 with the 3 and 3. I think that's what I heard.
That's the sense. I didn't vote and I think it would not make a difference, so that's okay.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, so,
I have a question, Madam Chair.
wait,
Now, can we add, could the R2 be to the discretion of the owner? I would
Mm,
prefer that. I don't think anybody wants your,
it's hard to enforce a subjective situation. With a bylaw, you've got to have a negative. You can't do this or you can't do that. You can't leave it gray, because then the bylaw officer doesn't have any real ability to enforce anything.
I would hope we'd see, keep status quo for R2, because it's another apartment.
We did.
we
Where?
did.
Oh, we did, okay. Okay, status quo like 1 and 1.
2 and 2.
2 and 2.
Oh, that's not status quo then. Okay,
No, we had, that's what I'm saying. We went around and everybody had their chance to vote. So maybe you made a mistake, but okay, at this point of time, that concludes the general government. I think.
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
just ask a question, one final question? The $4 fee for nurtured dog, can we not just look at $10 nurtured dog and remove the microchip? You know, to charge a fee of $4, it's either don't charge nothing at $4 or charge something which is conducive to other municipalities. You look at $10 for nurtured cat and dog with microchip in other areas, but the majority of them don't insist on microchip. So why not just say $10 for nurtured dog and cat?
yes, I agree.
Okay, so everybody else agree on that? So nobody's speaking, so we're okay. So Mel, you got that?
I got it.
Oh, I think Councilor Rowley had a question or a comment.
Yes, thank you. No, I don't agree with that at all because
Okay.
like I said, if you're gonna be, if you bother to chip your animal, that's quite an expensive procedure, and you should have a break. And I think $4 to some of us here is not big money, but to some it is. So I think we should keep it the way it is, $4, not go up to 10. Everything else costs so much these days. Let's give people a break here. Thank you.
But being that we do have a big contract that we pay with the Humane Society of over $100,000 a year. And I mean, whether you have an animal or not, all taxpayers are contributing towards that expense. So I mean, you still need to make it fair for people that don't have animals either. Only my recommendation.
Okay, but we had spoken to it, and then Councilor, and this is what happened when I don't stick to what, I think nobody had a comment till now that Conseiller Rowley had a comment, so everybody was in agreement before, nobody had said nothing. Now that Councilor Rowley, you said your comment, but we had spoke, I think, before of that, because.
But Madam
Okay.
Chair, I agree with-
Conseiller Leo, what I'm saying is I had asked the question and everybody was in agreement, Madam Mayor.
No,
and
but you didn't ask, you didn't go around, that's all.
we went around before and we said, because it was the last comment, hey, we gotta be here all night, then I can go around again to vote. Is that what you want? I don't think it's right, because that's why we lose so much time. Sometimes it seems to me, or not to me or everybody else, that depending who's voting what, then we want to change our mind. I asked this question, we went around, we had all our chance of talking. Nobody's shy around this table to say their comment. And I asked the question and everybody was in agreement. And then I was ready to say goodbye. And then I had courtesy to see the hand going like that, because it was not going before like that. And I wanted to see the comment he had to say, and now it's starting a new debate. So if you want to do another comment because you went one, but I think we had agreed, nobody had agreed, and we're not, I don't think it should be changed. So I don't think I want to go around. Is that fair to say that we had our chance, we spoke? I don't think it's a big deal. It's might be important, but I mean, when you have the chance to talk, we should be talking, and we've been on that. It's 8:30. We did not have a break. I'm just, yes, I'm chairing, and I'm gonna go back to you because you made the comment, but I don't think, I'm not gonna change that we had spoke about the $10 and everybody was in agreement at that time. So Councilor Rowley, you want to finish the meeting and maybe you want to close it if you want to?
No, I don't need to close it. What I'm going to say is that there was no issue of bringing it up to $10. The mayor just did. And I counter it by saying
Oh,
it should stay at 4. Now, I think you should go around and ask if people want to increase it or not. And then then you would close the discussion. That'd be very simple.
well,
I
first
tend
of all,
the,
please, Conseiller Rowley, please, I'm going to explain something. Okay, it's not because the mayor say it, and usually when people are not in agreement, usually when anybody's not in agreement, they are far, they talk really fast and they say the concern. I asked this question and I look around and I said at this point of time, nobody had any comment. I'm going to close the meeting. So I don't know if I can do that, but your comment is well taken. So, but when I asked the question, and we usually do that, it was say they were in agreement with the mayor. And tonight, people were in agreement with people and disagreement with other, which is democracy. So I'm ruling that we're sticking with what people had agreed before you raise your hand. And I asked 3 times if anybody raised your hand, if you have comment, and nobody moved. So that concludes that part of the meeting. And I mean, if you want to challenge that another way, you can, whatever, but that concludes the part of the meeting. So now I'm going to be closing that portion and asking Madame Mayor if we can have a break because it's 8:33. So Councillor Fisher is the
I'm a mover for a break.
Madame Mayor, take over.
Need a seconder?
Yvonne,
Okay,
So everyone is in agreement for a 10-minute recess?
yes.
So on my watch, I have 8:35. We reconvene at 8:45. So we stay connected, just mute. So we can come back in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we all back? Councillor Chris, Conseil Rowley. Okay, so our 10-minute recess is done. And we're going to proceed with the next committee, which is Planning, Planification. And I'll pass it on to you, Mr. Chair, Conseiller Denis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's two issues or items, and I'll pass this on to Melanie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just before I go on to the two items, I just wanted to let members of council know that I'm just about done my report on municipal land, and you will probably get it by email before the next meeting, so you have a chance to go through it and take a look at it and not have to just absorb it in one go. But tonight we have two requests to purchase. Both are sort of unfinished business. The first one is with regard to a piece of property that we discussed earlier in the year regarding an encroachment agreement. I guess it was last year now, which would be the property at the end of Craig Street. They had come to us for an encroachment agreement because the building is encroaching slightly on the municipal road allowance. It was granted, and now what's being asked is to purchase a piece behind the property for parking and storage. So that's the land behind is partly an unopened road allowance and a small corner of a larger tract of land that the municipality owns that runs all the way to Sabourin Road. So that's request number one.
So what is your recommendation, Melanie?
It's entirely this council, this disposition of municipal land. It's entirely within councils. Part of it is an unopened road allowance, so there is a process that would have to be gone through in order. Well, it's not developed because it's never actually been closed. There's a road allowance behind that property that was never built because it's on the side of a big hill.
Yeah.
But it would have to be stopped up and closed and pursuant to our bylaw. And then the little corner of the other piece that he wants, which is just contiguous with that road allowance.
Okay, so we'll do a round table, a quick one. See if there's any comments. Well, okay, we'll start with, I don't have my list. Let's start with Yvonne, I guess. Try it.
I would agree with Mel's recommendation, and I have no problems with what is being asked of. So I would agree with her recommendation.
Do you see who's next? Usually,
Me.
Chris. Okay,
Yeah.
Chris.
So I mean, I'm fine with it. Just worrying because I see the way I realize those are unopened roads, but like, are we stymieing development down the road potentially? I mean, perhaps you could still get to those parcels. I don't really know what's in all the other places. So as long as we don't shoot ourselves in the foot by selling that, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Who's next? Usually. Rolly, Monsieur Larrabee, Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm in agreement with what suggested here.
Thank you. Councillor Mallette, I think.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a question on Melanie. I know it's part of the road. Would that impede further development?
That's, I suppose that's a question that would be, there was, when subdivisions were laid down on the town, they were laid down just on a flat. But that particular road allowance is, if you know, when you get to the end of Craig Street, there's a big hill that goes all the way up and it goes up to Sabourin. So that road allowance is on the side of a hill.
Right, so, okay, I know they're probably, okay, I'm fine with it. Okay, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mallette. Councillor Ravida.
No issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Madame Mayor.
I don't have a problem for we're gonna declare it surplus, right? So the individual, that would be the process that we would follow?
That's correct.
Okay, and do we
And-
have my second question would be, do we need to proceed with doing the closure of the road allowance?
Pursuant to our bylaw, we would have to get it appraised, offer it to the individual, and if he accepts the offer, then we would proceed with the closure of the road and the disposition of the other piece, yes.
Okay, so it's not going to affect our crews in any shape, way, or form when it comes to the maintenance during summer and winter for turnaround or anything like that?
No,
Okay. Okay, well then I'd have no objection.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Councillor Lisa Nagal.
Yes, I also agree with everybody else.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mel, I guess you have direction enough.
I do, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on.
Yeah, the second one was brought to us last year, and council had agreed in principle at the time for the individual that had put forth the offer. Since then, as I indicated in my memo, there is a little piece of that land that I would not recommend disposing of. The land, the piece of property in question is a strip of land at the dead end of Cholette Street, which is down in the southeast corner of town. I can't say for sure why that piece of land, it looks like an extension of what might have been a road allowance or thought to be a road allowance at some point in the future. But it's not actually laid out as a road. It's just a part on a plan. I don't know if it was dedicated or given to the municipality, but it leads to this landlocked parcel that this individual has purchased. And what he'd like to do is he'd like to buy it. However, selling the whole thing would cut off one of our residents. So my recommendation would be that if council's interested in selling it, that it only be sold the portion that is beyond the dead end of the street, which is accessed by one of our local groups.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll proceed. And so do we agree to accept the recommendation from the clerk? So I'll go around and Yvonne is first. Councillor Yvonne?
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Chris?
So my question is more or less the same as the last time, because I see sort of parcels of land further away, and is there a potential that we shoot ourselves in the foot? Can we not just give that individual sort of deeded access to his land through that rather than sell it, if it's going to be something that could cause us problems 10 years down, 10 or 20 years down the road type of thing? I guess that's a question for Melanie.
And I really can't answer that, Councillor Fisher, because I don't know, the lands on either side of this strip of land are in private ownership, and I don't know of any immediate or impending plans by the owners. The owner, the property to the east of, to the west of that is accessible from the dead end, so it's not landlocked now. So this piece is the only one that is landlocked, and I don't know if council would want to, it's not road allowance, so we can't really allow it to be used as road unless it is established as such and brought up to standard and leave it in our names. We either have to get rid of it or not. And then if council wants to develop it as a road, that's a whole nother discussion.
Okay, I'm fine to sell it. Thank you.
I'm not going to comment at the end, but I just have a question for Melanie. Is the lot that's landlocked or is going to be landlocked, is that available, accessible in Park Street?
No.
We're talking about lot 3, right?
No, it's not. The dead end of Park Street doesn't extend to it either.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Rowley.
I'm in agreement, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Mallet?
Yes, I agree with the recommendation of Melanie.
Thank you. Councillor Ravida?
Yes, I agree with the
Thank you.
recommendation.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I agree that we retain the portion of the land that's shown in blue that according to the reported clerk.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lee Senecal.
Yes, I agree also.
Okay, thank you, and I also agree. So
Thank you very much.
it's all yours, Melanie. So I'll move back the conversation to the mayor.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to move on to the next committee, Emergency Measures and Public Safety, Mesures d'urgence et sécurité publique, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Councillor Chris.
So we have here a staff report on parking of commercial vehicles on municipal roads. And actually, that's a bit of a misnomer because the actual question is a little more involved, and it's actually also parking on your personal property, personal driveway. As Melanie points out, to stop people from doing this, that would require a zoning bylaw change and public notice. And if you look at the comparisons that are provided, there's quite it's a lot like the pet situation. Actually, it goes from very restrictive to no restrictions at all. So I think probably best on this one we do a round table, starting with Yvonne Duhame.
I think we should have somewhat of a bylaw pertaining to the parking on roadways in a residential area with respect to large vehicles. And that's the only problem I do have with the situation with regards to that. And if that's possible, I would certainly like to see something put in place so that the larger trucks cannot park in the streets because it becomes a nuisance with respect to being able to maneuver around these trucks and view as well. So I would seek a situation where we prohibit large transports or larger vehicles to park in the streets within the residential area. That's what I would seek. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I, for one, don't have any problem at all with big trucks parking along the road, as long as they don't impede traffic. They need a place to park their rig. Sometimes it's for the weekend. Sometimes it could be just for at night. So I don't have any problem as long as they don't impede on traffic. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mallette.
Yes, thank you. Just a question. I don't know if Mel can answer that or Jay, but I mean, with right now, with our parking bylaw, in the wintertime, even any vehicle cannot park on the roadway right now.
That's correct.
So I mean, so why would that would that supersede this bylaw?
Through you, Mr. Chair, our overnight parking bylaw is a different bylaw, but it applies to all vehicles from November to, I think it's March or April.
Okay, but this bylaw would be not on the roadway, but I mean in a private property. Is that what it is?
Through Mr. Chair, I believe that the request was with regard to parking vehicles both in the streets and in private drives was the concern that was brought forward.
Well, then I want to support this bylaw. Thank you.
Councillor Ravita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I looked at this from the perspective of what we had two bylaws here, or we were trying to address two issues. One, commercial vehicles parked in a private driveway, and vehicles on the road, commercial vehicles. Vehicles in a private driveway, if one was to look around town and see all the trucks that are parked within people's driveways, these are trucks that people are using to go to work. And I don't want to impede anybody from being able to go to work. Like I wouldn't want a person having to leave their house, drive to some station to get their truck when the truck could be parked just in their yard. So I don't see an issue with that. And I think that it should be status quo. There shouldn't be any changes there. In regards to vehicles on the road, well, there again, there is ways of making sure that they're not impeding the traffic, impeding people from getting around. And so I'm of the opinion that it would probably stay at status quo.
Thank you. Madam Mayor.
I would support having commercial vehicles like Councillor Rowley identified rigs in residential area, not parked alongside the road because it does impede. There's a concern for safety. We can drive around in our community in the town of Sturgeon and you can identify some roads and the width of the road. And imagine if you have a rig that's parked at any given time for extended period of times along the road. You have buses, you have pedestrians, you have young families. And if there's an emergency in that area where we need to dispatch fire trucks and so on, then it becomes an impediment. So for everyone's safety, you know what? They either park in their yard or we also have a lot at the entrance of the town of Sturgeon where they can park the commercial vehicle there, but not alongside our road. And I think the issue here is residential area and not rural. But residential, I do have a concern. And I see that the bylaw, we have two schedule. One is Schedule A that provides restrictions completely, not defined by time. Because i.e., let's say we didn't want rigs along Front Street to stop and things like that. That would be part of Schedule A. I don't think there's an expectation on the roads that are identified that we would allow rigs to be parked there. And then we have a Schedule B, which basically specifies timelines and days. So I think we should, my recommendation is I support that we do have something that controls commercial vehicles in residential areas along the road, because we have a lot of roads that are not really, many roads don't even have sidewalks, put it that way.
Thank you. Councillor Denise Seneca.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My opinion is that we don't get involved. We had one complaint and now we're having to change the bylaw. It's not like it's a ongoing issue all the time. These people have to make a living. Those that park those big rigs, I support them, and I don't see that it's unless it becomes a real problem, then we could maybe look at changing the bylaw. But right now, I don't feel we need to change the bylaw. We need to have these people that are working with their big rigs and other trucks to have a place to park, and they have to sometimes run it in the winter so they don't have, they can start it in the morning. So anyways, I'm not in favor at all of changing the bylaw. That's my comment.
Thank you. Councillor Lee Seneca.
Okay, well, I live on a residential street that on both sides I have a ditch about, I would say, and Councillor Ravita, maybe you would be better placed to say about the height, but it's deep. Somebody can hurt themselves if you run and you go straight in the ditch face first because they're pretty deep. On both sides of the street, we don't have sidewalk. I live it right now when they building and we have big rig park on the street, the truck part, and they're not the 10-wheel, whatever, park on the street. It makes it very, very dangerous. Thank God that the street, the only good thing about at close that street, that was for this summer for the construction. The rest of the time, it's a killer at the end by just saying so. I would agree. I think we should leave because I agree with people that say that people makes a living by driving big truck. So we cannot interfere with that, but they have a house, they could park in the driveway or they could use the lot coming in from town. It's free. They just need the right to be picked up because they don't go and do their grocery with those trucks. That's clear. So to park it on the street for either 2-3 hours and do that here and have the ambulance that try to go at least 50-60 to get to the end of here. If a neighbor get a heart attack or something like that, we can have the ambulance driver in a ditch And the guys, so I think it's very, very dangerous. I agree, they should stay in their driveway, not the machine running for 8 hours, but because there's nothing more annoying. We are in residential sector here. We have children, we have school bus, we have fire department that's all over the place. That so I think for safety issue, but at the end of the day, I'll respect whatever that it goes. But I sure hope that at some point of time we don't have somebody that get, and we do it on the highway, that get killed because the roads are not like 100 feet wide, not enough to park a big truck and do two traffic at the same time. So so I don't vote against the policy. I want the policy, the big truck in the driveway, but I want the policy to be amended that they cannot park on the street. That's a difference here. So we're not changing the policy completely. We're making an amendment. Am I wrong, Mel, if we do it like that?
I think if we're talking about municipal roads, we're talking about a change to the traffic and parking bylaw and adding additional roads to the prohibited parking. I think if we're talking about private property, then we're talking about the zoning bylaw. And if I could just perhaps get clarification on the size of, well, let's finish talking, then I'll ask for that. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm finished. I said my comment. I said I
Mr.
support the
Chair?
Yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah, I think I was reading this wrong. It's not to park on the street. I think it's to park on their own property.
Okay.
And if they have enough property to park their vehicle, the commercial vehicle, I think that's what this means, if I'm
Yeah.
correct.
No, I think there is actually two parts of it. So from what I've gathered so far, we are all in agreement that trucks, commercial vehicles have the right to park on their own property. So that's one piece of what we've been talking about, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Okay.
I agree that on some narrower streets, we probably shouldn't have commercial vehicles parking on some narrower streets. But as I have it tabulated now, we're at a 4-4 deadlock, and that dies on the table.
Well, I would support to park in their own driveway, but not on the street.
Okay, so yeah, so everybody agrees that they get to park on the driveway, and as for parking on the street, by the way I have it tabulated, that one's 4-4, and so status quo. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay, and
No
with that,
change.
I will,
No, Leo, I think Leo changed his mind.
no,
No, it's a 4, well, he said not on the street. So it's not status quo.
Leo, did you say? Leo, clarify yourself, please.
Yeah, okay. I agree with parking in their own driveway, but not on the street.
Okay, all right, so yes, in that case, then yeah, we need to change the parking on the street bylaw. I guess the next thing is how we go about this.
Can I jump in, Mr. Chair?
You certainly can.
Well, I from what I heard some discussion about narrow streets, and maybe it would be a good idea if we had our public works take a look at our streets. We have some streets that are wide, we have some streets that are narrow, and maybe our public works could take a kind of an inventory and make some recommendations. And maybe it's not parking, no parking, maybe it's only parking on one side, or maybe we need to look at just amending that Schedule B to our parking traffic and parking bylaw by maybe having a small inventory of our residential streets, because our guys on the ground know better what's going on than we do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Does anybody think that's not a good idea? Go ahead, Rolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, like I said, if the truck, that would answer itself. If there's no impediment on traffic, then if the bylaw officer is called to a situation and there's no impediment on traffic, then it's no problem. If it impedes the traffic, then there is a problem. So that would be simple, I think. Thank you.
Okay, so
I-
go
Can
ahead.
Well, to follow that, I agree with that, but if make a decision, we have to have rule, because I think impede on the street, that mean that if the car is parked on the street, it does impede on the street right away. If it parked like on the gravel beside the road, well, it doesn't impede. But I mean, most of our road, we have a couple, maybe they could do that, but it's gonna be harder, I think, if we go like that. But at least if they cannot park their wheel on the street and on the, then I would not have as much as a problem that I have right now. I still will have it because for the view, but it can, I guess it's, I don't know. There you go.
Thank you. Councillor Denise Senecal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is mostly to Melanie, I guess. Could we not have a sort of a special permit that they could apply and say, okay, I want to park my rig on this road, and then we could look at individuals and see, could we put that in a bylaw and say, okay, well, this road is too narrow, we can't accept it, or Public Works would have the last call, or
We can do anything we want. If we set up a process and a policy and everyone's in agreement, and we entrench it in the bylaw. That's basically it. We can prohibit at any point or any place, or allow at any point or any place.
Okay, well, that's just a comment. Thank you.
So, Councillor Revita.
Another issue that I can think of is our street here, Michaud Street, that comes down to Porgo, was redone, resurfaced, and there was a large truck that was parking on it, and it was breaking the side of the pavement. So I politely told them that I think that's not a good idea to park it there because it was a big machine. That's an issue too, but I don't want to complicate things. So maybe the idea of what Melanie suggested, get Public Works to look at the specific roads and give us an idea of which ones they think that there shouldn't be any large vehicles on whatsoever or parking on.
Thank you. So I think we're in agreement. I think we have people can park their vehicles on their own property, no problem. We will send out Public Works. They will come back with reports and recommendations, and we'll go from there. Everybody concur with that?
Can I make a last comment, please, Mr. Chair?
You certainly can.
Okay, well, the thing is, we're taking that into consideration. Councillor Revita brought another problem, which costing money. But I think if we look at it, we have to include more of the factor if they can park completely on the site, because there's still kid playing, there's still residential school. I think it have to be looked, because I mean, we might create more problem maybe, because they gotta try to so I think we need maybe Public Work to look at it and come for a recommendation, but have another discussion with that, because there's more than one factor involved here than safety or place or whatever.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, certainly when it comes back, whatever the Public Works recommends, then we can discuss those additional things. So with that, I think I am done my section, and I will hand it back to Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. I did attempt to contribute to the discussion. I wanted to add comments, but
sorry.
It's okay. The subject matter is closed. We'll move on. We're going to move on to community services, service communautaire. And I think the issue is pretty well straightforward. I completed an agenda request form. Now, just to give you a little bit of history, and I mean, COVID has not been easy for no one. La pandémie n'a pas été facile pour tout le monde. Everything that we hosted in the past that people were able to enjoy, and no fault to us, we're doing the right thing by making sure that our community is safe and that we maintain the level of positive cases. We have the lowest positive cases per capita in our entire region, and that's great. There's a big movement. A lot of people were upset when they found out that the Christmas parade was canceled, but you know what? We're good to advocate and specify the reason, and that the municipality cannot take the risk of congregating groups of people, and we don't want to entertain that. But then there's a wonderful lady in this community that identified, you know what, let's do something different for the holiday season. Let's light up the community. And before you know it, because of this wonderful idea, then there's a committee in place and they're entertaining the thought of engaging and promoting the aspect of residents and businesses and everyone to partake in the initiative and to light up. I thought, you know what, as a municipal government, I don't recall ever seeing Christmas lights on this building. And I think it would be a phenomenal undertaking and exciting to contribute with the community and with our residents and with the businesses and decorating and lighting up Town Hall and lighting up other municipal buildings if we can. I thought it was time sensitive because I think people are running to the local merchants to buy Christmas lights, and before they do run out of white Christmas lights, does council agree that we participate in lighting up Town Hall? And I would also provide a challenge to staff, not a challenge, but maybe get staff to verify. I know that there's going to be some type of recognition award for individuals that are participating in the process. It's not really a competition. Everyone is going to be in the draw, so it doesn't matter. You know, they don't want to make a distinction between who has spent more money and spent less money. And they want apartments, they want homes, they want businesses, and they're also going to be encouraging Garden Village. There's not going to be any monetary prizes. It's all going to be, you know, either certificates or so on. I don't know if the municipality can contribute something in kind, train of thought. Maybe, you know, whoever is drawn, they can have an hour of free ice time at one of the arenas, something in that fashion. But I can leave that to staff to come back to us and let us know. But I think the urgent request right now is that I would encourage the municipality to light up our buildings and to partake in providing smiles and joy for the holiday season. Not just for our children, we have a lot of seniors and we have a lot of aging kids, like we would say. And if that's the joy that we can share amongst the holiday season, I think we should contribute. And I'd also volunteer to help in decorating Town Hall. So, Councillor Yvon?
I certainly don't have a problem with that. I think, you know, when we take, understanding what we've gone through, at least, you know, Christmas is always a joyful part of the year. And lights is always makes you feel much better. And I agree. I think we should make an effort in trying to decorate the Town Hall and other places within the community so that it, you know, at least we'd have that to appreciate during the Christmas era, you know, Christmas. So I would agree with you, Madame Menace, that we should look at the possibility of doing something and hopefully everyone else will agree. Thank you, Madame Menace.
Councillor Chris?
So yeah, I would agree with decorating. I mean, but my question would be, I guess my question would be to staff, like, what do we have in inventory? Is there, you know, because you can decorate and you can decorate, where does it end? And so I assume that we've got an inventory of some stuff. Is this going to be a big cost, you know, that kind of thing? Let's be careful, but let's not blow the bank.
Yeah, I guess my request, Councillor Chris, is to start off with Christmas lights. If we can start off by lighting. I know that we have some municipal facilities that they have been lighted in the past, but physically this building here has never been lit for Christmas. So I think that would be the initial request. If we can start with that.
Sorry, just as a follow-up, Madam Chair, if you don't mind. So do we want to put like a budget, like, I don't know, a few $100s, or, yeah, like, I just don't quite understand. Like, I'm all for spreading the joy, but we need to put a.
Yeah. And I agree. So if we agree with the concept, we can ask staff to give us an update of what would be feasible. We'll do a second roundtable.
You
okay.
didn't do the first one, Madam Mayor. We didn't go, we didn't do the,
That's what I'm gonna do right now. So Conseiller Rowley, you've got your hand up.
Yes, if possible, if Stefan could answer that question that Chris had directed to him, what do we have in stock at the moment to decorate?
If I may, we generally have decorated inside the building. To my recollection, we haven't put anything up on the building per se. So as far as inventory that currently exists, to my knowledge, we don't have much for outdoor lighting at this point. That's something we'd have to look into and look at various ways to either light the trees in front of Town Hall or to actually put lights on around windows on the main floor or other options. We'd have to look and see what we can come up with in short order and look at ways to having this building more festive from the outside.
I totally agree with participating in this, but we also have a Main Street or King Street that's well illuminated. So I would agree to it as long as it's a minimal cost, because again, we're in COVID. We need to watch our expenses. That's all. Thank you.
Conseiller Leo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, yes, we have money in the budget there. If I may, Madam, to you, Madam Mayor. Stefan, we have money in the budget to buy some lights?
I'm sure we could look at our budget and find some money to help us decorate. I don't think that unless we're talking thousands and thousands, I think that we can certainly work something and allow ourselves to decorate the outside of our buildings for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I agree. Thank you.
Okay, Conseiller Dan?
I have no issue with making the downtown nice, and I have no issue with putting lights up on the building. However, I feel that we have to be reasonable with this, because the fact is that, like Councillor Rowley said, we don't want to go we don't want to create expenses that we probably didn't want to incur anyways. But if Steph feels confident enough, and I know Steph, you've got ways of making things work. If you feel comfortable that you can do it with a minimal cost, I support it. But that's my point for it.
Conseiller Denis?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I agree, as long as we can do it safely without putting our employees at risk. That's fine. Thank you.
Conseiller Alice?
well, I do agree that I think it's sad enough that we had to cancel the Parade of Light, which was not us that was paying for it, but it did involve a lot of stuff. So there were a fee attached for us as a municipality for the Parade of Light, for sure, for sure. The building to put lights around, I don't think it's going to break the coffer. I think we don't. It's not like we got to eliminate Toronto's Yonge Street in Toronto. The downtown is already did. It's got to be taken care of by the business. So, and I think it's a good idea for the moral of all the resident of West Nipissing. And I think every municipality should be encouraged to decorate their house, because after that, it's going to give the opportunity to bring the kid for a ride and look at houses. There's some people that, they go out and it's so beautiful what they do. I remember a sector in North Bay a few years ago that was amazing. They pay for their own light, they pay for their hydro. I think we, as a municipality, we have to show support and to try to understand that it's a hard time. And by canceling the parade and so many activity Halloween, we can at least provide that we have the municipal building is lighted, and it's not going to cost thousands of dollars. I have lots of light on my house, and I did not spend thousands of dollars. And I think I would encourage everybody that can do it. I think it's going to be great. And even for us as councillor to go around and look at our beautiful municipality, all lights up for Christmas time, I think it would bring a lot of joy to people. So that's my comment. So I would definitely agree. Obviously, I don't want to spend $10,000, but I don't think so that we're going to spend. And maybe, Stefan, there's other building that had lights and some material that you can use, as long as we had one building that's very, very nice presented that people can stop and look at it. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess that summarizes, the discussion. So direction, I think it's clear. I see Stefan nodding his head, so he's going to look into the subject matter so we can add some festive spirit, outside the building. Thank you.
Mel, I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes? Je peux pas comprendre, Mel, you're on mute.
Mute. Mel?
You're on mute.
Sorry, we need a motion to extend curfew.
Okay, who's a mover?
A motion for what?
I'm the motion to extend. Councillor Chris? And seconder, Yvonne?
Thank you.
Everyone is in agreement that we proceed beyond our curfew? No objection? Okay, on procède avec courrier et compte, correspondence and accounts. We'll need a mover and a seconder.
Madam Mayor, were you going to deal with that letter before the two resolutions?
Yes. No, we're going to deal, it's added as F3.
Okay. I need a mover and a seconder for the two items, the two sets of minutes, please.
Leo?
Leo. It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on October the 20th, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Are there any questions or comments? I just identified that on page 2, item D2, the community services service communautaire, West Nipissing Snowmobile Club Trail concern for adjacent landowner. Is there a way that we can add that the situation was Stewart Road? Because the minutes don't identify, and that was a big discussion item pertaining to the location. If we can just reflect.
Okay, where are you?
On page 2 of the minutes of October 20.
Okay, that's where you are. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it reflected, the specific location that we spent so much time debating and discussing. Any objection? None? So the minutes as amended, all in favor? Carried, adopted.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. West Nipissing Public Library Board, September 10th, 2020.
Any questions or comments? Everyone in favor? Adopted, carried. Okay, I'm just taking a second here because I'm trying to locate the letter.
It would be in the back of your closed agenda or a separate item that was sent this afternoon.
It was a separate item.
Additional information.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that we put it on record. So I'm just going to quickly read it. And if there's any questions or comments, well, we're going to have to direct them to Councillor Elise. Surgeon Paul.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Depending on the question, because I don't represent Canoe on council, I represent council on Canoe, which is a different. I
Okay,
can
thank
maybe
you.
clarification, but I cannot answer all of the question.
Thank you for your comments. Sturgeon Falls, le 27 octobre 2020, de la part du Conseil des arts de Nipissing-Ouest, M. Marc Lavigne, président, à l'attention du Conseil municipal de Nipissing-Ouest, Mme Joanne Savage, mairesse, objet, proposition de suivi par rapport à l'entente triennale avec le canot. Madame la mairesse et les conseillers municipaux, la présente est pour vous informer que le 29 septembre dernier, lors d'une réunion de conseil d'administration du canot, une motion a été votée à l'unanimité afin de soumettre la proposition ci-dessous aux membres du conseil municipal concernant l'entente triennale de financement intervenue en juin 2019 entre le Conseil des arts de Nipissing-Ouest et la municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest. À titre informatif et de rappel aux lecteurs, cette entente est toujours valide et ce jusqu'au 31 mars 2022. Un dernier versement au montant de 25 000 $ est toujours attaché. Le contexte actuel occasionné par la pandémie de la COVID-19, jumelé à une incertitude économique évidente, nous a amené, après réflexion et analyse, à vous proposer de mettre fin conjointement à la dite entente entre nos deux parties. Bien que notre organisme ait respecté l'entièreté de ses obligations depuis les débuts de cette entente et n'est aucunement en défunt à l'égard de la municipalité, il est toutefois évident que la présente pandémie apporte des obstacles incontournables ayant des impacts au niveau financier et de fonctionnement pour notre organisme. Nous sommes également conscients que cette crise apporte son lot de difficultés et de défis financiers pour la municipalité. Il est clair qu'au moment de la signature de cette entente, qu'aucune des deux parties ne pouvait imaginer qu'une pandémie semblable nous frapperait tout un an plus tard, et ce, avec toutes les conséquences et tous les impacts socio-économiques que nous connaissons maintenant. C'est donc pour l'ensemble de ces raisons qu'après discussion et pour parler au sein de notre conseil d'administration, ainsi que validation auprès de nos collaborateurs, nous avons décidé de réaliser les actions suivantes au cours des dernières semaines. Rembourser la totalité des détenteurs de billets pendant la période estivale, une somme de 13 000 $, annoncer au début du mois de septembre la suspension temporaire de nos activités jusqu'au 31 décembre prochain, rembourser nos ambassadeurs par la portion non utilisée de leur forfait pour 11 300, suspendre nos activités jusqu'au 31 décembre 2020, contacter nos bailleurs de fonds gouvernementaux afin de les informer de la situation, proposer à la municipalité de mettre fin conjointement à l'entente intervenue avec elle. Nous proposons donc à la municipalité la possibilité de se retirer conjointement de cette entente triennale, ce qui aura pour effet direct de libérer la municipalité de son obligation de verser à notre organisme le troisième et dernier paiement au montant de 25 000 pour la saison 2021-2022. En ce qui a trait au deuxième versement pour la saison 2019-2020, il n'y aura pas de remboursement. Nous portons à votre attention qu'il s'agit d'un cas de force majeure hors de notre contrôle et que Canot n'a perçu aucun revenu de billetterie ou de bar depuis le 13 mars dernier et que nous avons effectué pour plus de 24 000 $ de remboursement auprès de notre clientèle et de nos partenaires ambassadeurs. De plus, malgré l'annulation et le report des spectacles de notre programmation hiver-printemps 2020, le Canot a dû faire face à toutes ses obligations financières envers ses fournisseurs, ses collaborateurs, ses employés, ses partenaires et assumer la totalité des frais de promotion et de production reliés à cette programmation, en plus de ses frais de bureau et de fonctionnement dans le cadre d'une crise sanitaire sans précédent. Je crois que nous pouvons dire sans aucun doute que nous avons réussi à relever le plus grand défi rencontré par le Canot depuis sa fondation. Mais à ce stade-ci, nous ne pouvons savoir que l'avenir nous réserve. C'est pourquoi nous croyons que, vu le caractère exceptionnel de la situation créée par la pandémie et le climat d'incertitude actuel, qu'il est de notre devoir à titre d'administrateur et de gestionnaire responsable de vous proposer de mettre fin à la présente entente en toute bonne foi. Je vous rappelle que le Cano est principalement composé de membres de notre communauté qui agissent bénévolement et pour certains d'entre eux depuis plusieurs années afin de faire briller la culture, les arts et la scène et le divertissement dans les 2 langues officielles et ce pour l'ensemble de la communauté sur notre territoire. Nous nous efforçons à ce que Cano soit un vecteur de rapprochement et de rassemblement communautaire, un outil de rayonnement et un service complémentaire des plus appréciés des citoyennes et des citoyens en contribuant directement à l'amélioration de leur qualité de vie. Notre proposition sera considérée comme finale et libératoire pour les 2 parties une fois entérinée par le conseil municipal et qu'une lettre confirmant l'acceptation de la proposition selon les conditions si haut mentionnées sera parvenue au bureau de Cano. Merci de prendre note que la présente proposition est valide jusqu'au 20 novembre 2020. Veuillez agréer mes salutations distinguées. Monsieur Marc Lavigne, Président Conseil des Arts de Nipissing West Cano. This was a letter that we got this afternoon, basically, which Cano is identifying that due to the circumstances of COVID-19, and they wish to terminate the agreement and not request any funding for 2021-2022. And they're asking council to terminate the agreement, and if we agree with the termination, to notify them by November 20th to let them know. So, quickly, Conseiller Yvon?
C'est le dollar. Ils ont bien fait pour la municipalité. Je crois que ils ont fait un gros effort pour nous améliorer notre situation ici en West Nipissing. Et je crois qu'il faut sans doute leur dire merci pour leur dévouement et leurs travaux. Je suis d'accord. Je crois qu'on devrait terminer notre contrat.
Merci. Councillor Chris?
No, I agree. Hopefully this pandemic passes and they can bring the Ox back at a later date. Thank you.
Okay. Conseiller Rowley?
No comment at this time, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Conseiller Dan? Conseiller Leo, sorry.
No question. Merci.
But do you agree that we terminate the agreement?
Well, of course.
Okay. Conseiller Dan?
Yes, I agree.
Conseiller Denis?
Yes, hopefully they'll be back, but I agree to cancel for now.
Okay. Conseiller Lise?
Well, I do agree for sure that we cancel it. It's $25 more that we don't have to be concerned about giving because this contract was very clear. And not the sad part, it is very sad part is that they are leaving because they've been great for their cultural motivation or mind or whatever you call it for West Nipissing residents. So, and I mean, I wish them the best and I hope they come back for sure, but they will have to go by 3 months to see how it looks like. As far as the contract, I agreed to cancel the contract, but we need to remember that at the beginning, the contract that they were giving us at any time of the 3 years that they had partnership with us, the ability to cancel for a different thing, but this contract was provided by us, a standard contract that the municipality that provide for a lot of their whatever. And at this point of time, it was very clear that COVID they cannot control, and it's right in the contract. So I really appreciate that, and I was glad when they said that. Put my head as a counselor, it's $25 less that we have in our coffin to be able, and it's not going to solve all our problem, but it's a little bit better. So yes, I agree.
Okay, so if it's possible at our next meeting, to Melanie, if we can get a resolution that we can vote on saying that we put end to the agreement for 2021-2022. And after that, there'll be a response that can work with our Director of Community Services to respond to Cano. Okay, no problem. On procède avec affaires nouvelles, new business. I think The first issue that we have under that section is the rediscussion for the electronic participation. Now, when I read the memo that came from our CEO, from what I understood is that we need to adopt some type of resolution to allow us to conduct our proceedings like we're doing right now by video conferencing. And what I understood from the two discussions that we had on September 1st and the previous meeting is that the majority of council, well, the majority, there was no consensus to go beyond after COVID. So, Councillor Chris.
Well, can you go around? I think it's better we know when our turn comes and.
Okay, but we.
Please.
Councillor Yvonne.
Well, as I said in the past, I agree with the situation as it stands. But whenever things, and hopefully in time, it will come to be better. I certainly would propose that we meet at a council chambers as we did in the past. But as it stands now, we just don't seem to have much of a choice of the matter. And that's how I stand, Madam Chair.
Okay. Councillor Chris?
So I think probably the CAO can explain it better, but basically the way this needs to be adopted, because right now in our bylaw, we're only allowed at the virtual meetings when Ontario is under a state of emergency. Ontario has not been under a state of emergency since July 24th. So this is just like, we just need to adopt it so we can just carry on with our everyday business. And perhaps CAO can speak to that.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. No, it really is that simple. What council chooses to do once the pandemic is over and it's safe to meet in person is of course council's decision. But right now, without the approval of this, you're technically not holding a legal meeting as per your procedural bylaw.
Okay. And I guess, and that's what I was alluding to, we need to amend to identify that we're meeting virtually based on the pandemic issue. And many other municipalities, what they've done is that they've allowed to continue doing business that way and to revisit the situation at a later time frame. So it wasn't to say that council wanted to reconvene in person immediately. My interpretation was we're not ready to meet in person right now. And by doing business virtually like we're doing it now, well, there has to be something adopted, either a policy on its own or amending the procedural bylaw to reflect that. Is that correct, Jay?
I'm not sure it is totally. I believe they indicated through the Municipal Act that the appropriate way to do it is by amending your procedural bylaw. So
Okay.
I think that the way Melanie is got it put forward, I'd recommend acceptance. And then once the pandemic, heaven forbid, whenever it decides to subside, then you obviously would want to revisit, and the normal course of action would be to visit in person. So I would imagine that that would be the case, and then you're free to change your bylaw again.
Okay. So would there be an agreement that we amend the procedural bylaw to reflect that during this pandemic situation, that we are in agreement in conducting business virtually via Zoom conferencing?
That's it.
I agree, Madam Mayor.
Okay, but I want clarification. Can I ask clarification before we go around?
Well,
Okay.
okay, yes, ask a clarification.
Well, it's a clarification. I'm not going to vote on, say what I think. The clarification is if what you present is strictly that we agree to pass a resolution that till the pandemic is over or it's not lifted, that we're going to use Zoom. It doesn't go and we approving that we're going to go by phone, that we can vote by if we're not present. I think it's strictly that what we're going to be amended is that until the pandemic is over, we gotta be using, because whatever was presented,
Okay,
it was,
thank
so,
Okay,
yeah,
now,
just
The clerk-
clarification.
Yeah, well, I saw Melanie lift her hand, so I just want to make sure that Melanie can provide. her-
I just wanted to reiterate what our CAO had said, is that in order to change it, we need to pass a bylaw. In order to unchange it, we need to pass another bylaw. So we can't pass a bylaw that says until this or that. We have to pass it and then repeal it at another time or change it. So we would pass it now and then someone would come, we would come back at a further time with an amendment to amend or repeal the bylaw that was passed for this purpose.
I do
Okay,
not agree.
Okay, so you know what? I need clarification on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
me too.
right now, our procedural bylaw does not allow us to conduct business virtually.
That's correct.
Okay, so what's being asked is that we need to conform with our procedural bylaw. That's one option. Or can we adopt something on its own like we did for special meetings when the pandemic was declared and there was an order by the province? We adopted a resolution on its own saying that during this situation, we're going to be conducting business electronically. We did that. So I'm asking point of clarification. Can we just do a standalone or do we need to amend our procedural bylaw?
No, well,
We need to amend our procedural bylaw.
Okay,
To elaborate, Your Worship, when that happened in April, as Councillor Fisher indicated, it was under a provincial emergency, but that emergency's been lifted. So now the directive from Municipal Affairs is to amend your procedural bylaw.
okay. And what I've heard from the procedural bylaw is that we all agree conducting business virtually via Zoom. So
Yeah.
why are we not incorporating that into our procedural bylaw to make sure that we conform?
That's all you need to do.
okay, but
Okay, well, there's a recommendation then on the floor and I'll do a round table. Conseiller Yvon already spoke, Conseiller Chris agreed, Conseiller Rowley.
Yes, I would also include in there the telephone use, because if internet goes with Zoom, we could at least participate with the telephone. So this is what I recommend that we put in our bylaw, that's Zoom and telephone. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna go Conseiller Leo had agreed, Conseiller Denis,
Whoa.
sorry, Conseiller Dan.
Oh, I was on mute. I wasn't on mute, and you heard me say, whoa. So let's just put this into perspective. For us to be legal, we have to pass this motion. And I think this resolution, and basically what we're saying is electronically. So electronically could mean Zoom or by phone. And let's face it, the phone is just to accommodate people that have bad internet. And we had an example of that of Councillor Rowley. His system went off. He was able to join us by phone. I don't think that's a major issue. It's not going to be something where he's going to use all the time. So I think the thing is that predominantly, like you said, Councillor Lees, we should be using Zoom, yes. But in the position where we have somebody that's unfortunately loses their internet connection, has the right to phone in. That's all.
Conseiller Denis.
Well, of course, as usual, I'm a little confused. Seems to me that this bylaw is pretty well general. It's not what we had anticipated. I think we need to have a bylaw that's specific to COVID. Now we're into all kinds of emergencies. We're into phone participation. And I'm strongly against phone participation. I've said that before. So I don't agree with this bylaw at all. I think it should be more restrictive to COVID. It's not clear that it's for COVID only. So I'm against it so far. Thank you.
Conseiller Lise.
well, I mean, for me, my concern, and I voiced it, Zoom is not perfect, but I mean, yes, it might be lifted or it might be, but we still are in IRIS and we are requested by the government, by the health unit to stay away from each other. So that's clear. Let's make that clear. So we're still in the COVID period of time. I think we have Yvonne that come to Conseiller Yvonne, the mayor, because sometimes she had problem with her internet that come to the town hall. There's other office. I think the rest of us are very central. Even Councillor Fisher is in field and doesn't have any. Councillor Fisher, are you there? Or it's a picture of yourself. Okay, thank you. You're moving. I'm worried when you don't move. Okay, I thought maybe you froze. So just checking on you. So he seems to not have any issue with his Zoom. So if we, let's say that in the blue moon it can happen, but if it start happening every week that people said use the phone, that's what I'm concerned. And I'm going to be very honest with you, that people are more comfortable being on the phone because we don't see them. They can walk in the house, they can do whatever they want, and they might be more comfortable. But I don't think we should have a standard, and the standard we have adopted, and we let the administration go away if they want to. I think that was okay. But as far as council, that's a job. We need to show up, and showing up is there. Phone, if it's happen, maybe we can go and revise it after, but I will not support in general blanket that it's got to be done all the time when the internet. I will not support it either. So it's not a big deal, but it is in my book, and I have my personal reason, and we have proven facts. So it's working very well right now. Why all of a sudden the internet will crash on us?
Okay. So what I'm hearing right now, if I go back to the document that we were provided by the clerk on September 1st, is that we need to decide on the electronic participation, and we had in bracket phone or teleconferencing. We all agree teleconferencing, and it's because of the pandemic COVID situation. Of course, if someone is participating and there's something occurs where they lose out on the internet, you don't want to be excluding that individual during the meeting. So all efforts would be done to try to accommodate the individual to come back via video conferencing as much as possible. If it's ongoing, well, then there's other mechanism that administration provided to us, assistance, either because it was a big issue. You know, we concluded doing business by phone, and since we've been doing it by video conferencing, it's been more effective. So does that summarizes, to provide an amendment to our procedural bylaw?
So can you read what is the amendment? Mel?
Conseiller Broley?
Like I said prior, I would like just a telephone. If something happens to the internet that I can no longer participate by Zoom, access by telephone. My choice would be Zoom. But if something happened like it did, it's not like it doesn't happen. It did happen. And that way I could keep participating in the meeting. And this is what I would support. Zoom, preferably, telephone, secondly. Thank you.
Okay.
To summarize, if I put in paragraph 2.6.1, may participate by electronic video conferencing or by telephone where teleconferencing is not available. Would that be an acceptable amendment?
Not where teleconferencing is not accessible is the clause. There was a clause that identified that if there was a problem, 2.66, if there's a problem, failure during the meeting, a recess of not more than 10 minutes can be taken to allow staff to either reinstate the electronic participation. If a member can no longer participate by electronic means, it will not affect. What we should say is that accommodation will be done to have the member join in by phone. And if an ongoing reoccurring situation, well, then we can review it at a later date. That would sound fair. So we want to make sure that if something happens to any one of you while being on video conferencing, that you're not excluded from being able to continue the meeting.
That that paragraph, Madam Mayor, actually refers to if they lose connectivity globally. It doesn't just mean the video. That paragraph is relates to electronic means. So if their internet goes down, their phone dies, if they're no longer able to participate at all.
Well, can we amend electronic to video? And that would resolve the issue. Because what I'm hearing is that if one loses connection via Zoom, that all efforts are being done to accommodate the individual to come back on the meeting and to continue with another tool. Or that we incorporate such a clause specific to that. And that
Well,
the
I think
reason, and the reason we're doing this is during this pandemic, and whenever the situation changes, well, then we can bring it back and review it. Conseiller Chris?
Well, I just want to say, you know, the provincial government in its wisdom just decided, okay, yeah, there's a pandemic, but we can also see situations where this might come in handy for ourselves. Even since I've been here, we've canceled, we've had to cancel meetings in a storm, for example, winter storm. And with this in place, it would allow us to not cancel a meeting in a winter storm. And just in terms of to Rolly's point, like my internet here is ground-based. It's pretty good most of the time, but it can fail. And my cell tower is a different thing altogether. So in some kind of natural disaster emergency situation, to leave it like this, it's good for all of us, because you can have a fiber optic line cut and we can all be without internet, all of us. So it just, like, I know it's not preferred, but it just leaves us the option. That's all. Thank you.
Well, you know what? I've listened to round table and there's not going to be consensus to adopt and leave it as is. So that's why I was trying to get something that would be a middle ground so we can at least make sure that our procedural bylaw reflects how we're doing business. Jay?
Well, if what, to repeat you a little bit, if what I've heard is that there's no, you won't be able to get consensus on the phone in, even though there might be a willingness to amend procedural bylaws on a case-by-case basis, which, you know, you can do. There is a consensus to continue this way. And I believe procedurally or legally, I think you want to at least pass the minimum that's all agreed upon so that you can continue to conduct council business.
Okay. So is there any objection that we proceed with the modification of at least the minimum so we can be conforming to our bylaw?
May I have a last comment on that, Mayor?
Conseil Elise?
I think that if it does happen, for example, when Rolly happened before, I think the first time and you changed, you went to a laptop and you've been on a laptop since then or whatever, it happened to you. I think everybody's going to be open to try to do whatever we can. And if it's to reach you by phone, by all means, I don't think it's going to be denied.
Okay. So right
My
now,
comment.
thank you.
Yeah.
We're beyond our curfew and we still have a lot of issues to discuss. And what we need to do is at least get to the minimum of making sure that we conform. So if we can have an amendment to a procedural bylaw to allow Zoom conferencing, and if there's a technical glitch during the meeting, that accommodation is done for the individual to join the meeting by phone, and that this is only for the period of the pandemic and subject to review. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just for clarification, so all of the an E come out of paragraph 2.6.1.
Can you read it?
Well, the paragraph, what would fix this, I think, is that if we said, well, in paragraphs 2.6.1, committees may, council or other boards may participate by electronic video conferencing or by telephone in the event that electronic video conferencing is not, whatever the word is, it can't be achieved.
Not
And then-
available.
Okay.
You're
I'm
removing
looking,
that. Melanie, you're removing that.
we're removing it. So
Yeah.
I think what we just want to do is under 2.61, every effort shall be made by members to attend meetings physically in person during the following circumstances, and may participate by electronic video conferencing when it is not safe or possible to attend in person. And we can write down example COVID-19. And then we want to make sure that there's a clause that if a member experiences technical problems during video conferencing, that they can proceed.
Well, that's in 2.6.3.
Okay. So they can proceed by telephone. And that's it. And just one final comment that maybe Jay, you can answer. This is to govern how council does business and how committees of council do business, but this would exclude boards, right? Because we, when you look at the Police Services Board, you look at Au Château, DSAB, La Bibliothèque, they have their own procedures in place. So
They're governed under separate autonomous legislation, and so they follow different. So we have no authority over them.
So we should be removing anything where it may, here, the example that we were given made reference to local boards as well.
Yes, may I ask something, add something? It does, it's not taken from our bylaw though, and we're not passing what's written down right now. I think what we're passing is an amendment to the procedure bylaw to
That's
say
right.
that, so we don't have to use that, and I don't think we should use that because it's
Okay.
not part of it right now. So
Okay.
it's just a simple amendment, like Jay was saying, to be able to keep on moving on and have our meeting. And if it happened, that somebody like Councillor Rowley, Councillor Fisher, and it could be us too, because we're not immune. I lost my internet a couple of times since I've been here, so that can happen to
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you, Conseil Elise. That's what we're doing.
Well,
Thank you. No, but thank you for the point. Conseil Chris?
So local boards, that's, we do need that. We need that for planning and committee of adjustments, I believe.
That's right. Okay. Okay, so are we going to be adopting the resolution this evening to amend the procedural bylaw, or is that going to be coming back next council meeting?
Has to be tonight.
Where's Jay?
Are we
It's
going to,
ready tonight. I mean, wasn't this under new business? There wasn't a bylaw put forward?
It is.
well, it was, but there was no resolution attached to it.
I read the resolution.
Okay, so
Okay,
you'll read it again when it's time anyways, right?
so well, we might as well proceed. We
Right.
might as well proceed with the resolution immediately. So is
Or
there,
legal,
pardon?
to enable us to have our meetings in the future and be legal. That's what
That's
we're.
right.
That's what she's saying too,
So
right now.
is
wasn't
there
too
a move, is there a mover and a seconder for the resolution that's just been drafted? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Dan, and Mel, can you read the resolution?
Moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Revita. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-51 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-94 as amended to include the provisions for electronic participation for council, local boards, and other committees shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
But it doesn't say why, or we gotta amend it.
Well, I made the changes in the bylaw document itself. that
Of
were
what,
requested.
of what's presented here, right?
That's
Oh,
correct.
I don't.
Okay,
Hold on.
Actually,
Melody
no, no,
says-
no, before we vote on,
Okay,
we need to be clear.
Because Alice, I'm asking the question, just be patient.
Okay, yeah, but
So, la résolution, Mel, est-ce que la résolution, c'est de modifier notre politique de procédure? Are we amending our procedural bylaw?
Yes,
Okay, and the resolution that you read is we're amending that bylaw to add. Can you reread it again?
the paragraph that was amended was that while every effort shall be made, yada, yada, council may participate by electronic video conferencing when it is not safe to attend in person.
Okay,
That's what I understood the amendment to be. And then the rest of it stayed the same because it already addressed the telephone issue in 2.6.3.
But
What
you
do
did address the telephone?
It
Okay.
already had it in there that if they couldn't participate, that they could call in by phone.
okay, but
No.
the resolution doesn't add all of the rest of what's being presented to us, right?
No, the resolution just adopts the bylaw that we amended tonight.
Okay.
Whoa,
But I think the clarity here, what I'm seeing hands and seeing heads here, is that the resolution to amend a procedural bylaw is to add a specific clause that during COVID, we're conducting business via video conferencing. And if there's a hiccup during the video conferencing, then the individual can participate by phone. That's what I heard now. Like, I mean, Jay, you're laughing. Like, I mean, I'm trying to get help Mel
Well-
here to craft.
So resolutions are only basically to amend or accept or adopt a bylaw. And those changes that you're referencing are actually form part of the actual bylaw that you're going to be adhering to and operate, which is basically your procedural bylaw. So the resolution is simply be resolved that the bylaw be amended, and then she's made the amendments in the bylaw. And so the bylaw amendments, as I understood it, was that you're going to be doing a video participation. I'm not sure, and I think it's worded where for some reason that you're unable to do so, right?
It is.
Kind of inherent pandemic. And then there is a reference, a second reference, which I believe caught some people because there was a whole debate about half an hour ago about whether phoning in is acceptable.
no,
Well, the debate, I think Conseil Rowley mentioned that he wants to participate via video conferencing. If there's a technical problem during the meeting, I still want to continue the meeting. And if I need to join by phone to proceed in continuing the meeting because of technical problem, I want to be able to have that flexibility, and that's fair. So,
And that's in the bylaw right now.
It's already in there.
okay, but I guess the confusion here is the actual document here. This document, the remaining of the clauses are not being added to the procedural bylaw. I think that's the question that I'm asking for. I'm seeing some people raise their hands or not clear. Conseil Denis?
Yeah, it's not very clear, Madame Mayor. Are we adopting a new bylaw or we're not? We're amending a bylaw. It says in number 3 that that bylaw number 2020-25 is hereby repealed. So what are we doing?
We are
Thank you,
amending, we're amending our procedural bylaw. And
So
we're
why-
adding, and
Why
we're
are we
adding,
repealing 2025?
Because that bylaw was only, could only stand during the period of the provincial emergency.
That's
It
the
had
one we
no-
want.
It had no force and effect after that.
Okay, because that's really what we want, that 2025.
Conseil Alice?
Okay, well, if maybe the restriction is over, so why we're not meeting in person? So
Okay,
I
great.
just want to make sure that the bylaw, we don't get with what Jay sent us, that was part of what we had refused last meeting. So if is simply to do an amendment, like Jay said, that it would be a section, one section said now that we had decided, council had decided they're going to do their meeting of video conference, and only with emergency, that if somebody that doesn't function, they can use the phone. That's it. I don't want the all the other thing that was on it. That's what I'm worried that's going to be there, because that's what we received, and I don't want to reprove that. I would support that. That it's not clear, because we're still going back on that piece of paper, the memo that
Okay.
Jay sent us.
Okay, Mel?
Just for clarification, the other paragraphs that are in there are just mechanical paragraphs that speak to persons participating electronically are part of quorum. They're just the mechanics of the meeting. There's no other secret provisions in there.
Oh,
It's just,
there's please, they're talking a lot about more about that with the memo that Jay has said. And now I'm gonna try to find it with all, okay, you know what, at this point.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, Councillor Leo. See, right now, if we don't agree on this bylaw, then we're not legal. We could just leave and it'd be over. I mean, we have to support this, or we have no more meetings.
So right now,
If I'm correct,
Yes.
yeah,
maybe Jay or Melanie.
Yes.
right now,
okay.
we're looking at adopting an amendment to what was presented to us with 2 clauses. And that's it.
Okay, let's vote on it. Okay, let's vote.
Well, like, I mean,
Ah,
let's read the resolution again, Mel, like, I'm so confused right
that
now
makes
at this
two of us.
point.
I'll be honest, Madam Mayor, I'm not really sure what I'm reading.
Can I speak?
Yes, Jay, please do so.
Well, so there was an assumption, if I can follow the bouncing ball a little bit, there was an assumption by Mel and maybe some that the mechanical aspects of, it's agreed and understood that people who call in could, or it's probably understood by council, but that Melanie's articulating those things. And so that's why she wanted it in there. So to simplify matters, what I'd suggest is forget all that, Melanie. Just put the 2 clauses in, and at least it allows you to meet electronically for now. So everything else is out, just what you spoke about of phoning in if the technology fails, and the electronic video. Just put those 2 clauses in, and move on to the next battle.
Okay, so the bylaw is limited to paragraph 2.6.1 that states that they'll meet by video conferencing when it's not safe, and 2.6.3, which states that if the internet service is interrupted, that they may rejoin by phone.
Right.
And everything
Okay.
else out.
And you had a mover and you had a seconder, so.
I do.
Okay, so is everyone in agreement with what has just been read? Adopted, carried. The other one, resolution declare surplus land on Bay Road.
A mover, please, and a seconder.
Conseil Lee, Conseil
Leo?
Yvon.
Fisher.
Leo?
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas at a meeting held on July the 14th, 2020, Council for the Municipality of West Nipissing recommended the transfer of certain municipally owned lands located on Bay Street in Sturgeon Falls. And whereas the land described as part of lots 3 and 4 and 5 East Side Montreal Street and part of lot 5 West Side Ottawa Street, former Township Springer, now West Nipissing Municipality, must first be declared surplus by the Corporation Municipality. Be it resolved that PIN number 490780308, legal description again, now in the Municipality of West Nipissing, is hereby declared as surplus. And this is the land that we had the counter offer last week, that council held the price and they agreed to the price that council had held.
Okay, are there any questions or in agreement? Conseil Yvon?
No questions.
No questions? Conseil Rowley? Conseiller Leo? Conseiller Chris?
No, I'm good.
Conseiller Dan? Conseiller Dan? Conseiller Denis?
Yeah, I'm good.
Conseiller Elise?
I'm good.
Okay, carried. Private road winter maintenance agreement.
Mover and a seconder, please. Chris? Please. It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Whereas the municipality of West Nipissing has received private winter road maintenance agreements for certain roads within the municipality, and whereas the roads in question have been inspected and identified as meeting the municipality's standards for maintenance, be it resolved that the mayor and the chief administrative officer are authorized to sign the 2020-2021 private road winter maintenance agreements with the residents of the following roads: Alfred Road, Argo Road, Pellerin Road, Point Road, Prangs Lane, and Saint Jean Road. And there are some comments on the side with regard to the status of each.
Okay, and quick question, were all the residents on the two roads, where there's comments, where there's prescribed work that they need to do, have they all been notified? Or will they all be notified?
Yes, they have been, and they will.
Okay, okay, thank you. Is everyone in agreement?
Yep.
Carried, adoptee?
Mover and a seconder for tile drainage.
Conseiller Brown, Conseiller Leo?
Chris? It is moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-63, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing municipality to authorize borrowing to aid in the construction of drainage works under the Tile Drainage Act, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions? None? All in favor? Carried, adoptee.
Mover and a seconder for tile loan.
Evolve?
Is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that a tile loan application made under the Drainage Act by Stephen Gilmet for the property described below in the amount of $32,000 be accepted pending financing by the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. Property 21B Trutsey Road in La Vigne, part of Lot 2, Concession to Township McPherson.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, adoptee. The next is an appointment of a community member for the West Nipissing Library Board. I think we presently have maybe 2 vacancies on that board presently. Is that correct, Mel?
Yes, one at large and I believe one council member.
Okay, okay. So with the information that we were provided, unless there's any questions pertaining to the individual, then we would be required to go in closed. If not, well, then we have an interest that has been submitted. And if there's no concern, well, that name can be reflected on the resolution. Can I just?
You just need a mover and a seconder.
That's what I'm looking. Conseiller Elise, Conseiller Dan.
It's moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Ravita. Be it resolved that the following individual be appointed to the West Nipissing Public Library Board for the remainder of the 2018-2022 term. Susie Michaud.
All in favor? Carried, adoptee. So this part, okay, that was the last item under new business. As far as mayor's report, I just want to say a big thank you to the residents of West Nipissing for conducting a safe, fun Halloween for our children throughout the various communities. It was phenomenal to see the photos that were posted on Facebook. Donc, félicitations à vous tous pour assurer que les règlements, les consignes de santé étaient respectés. Ceci dit, on procède avec la réunion à huis clos. We proceed to closed meeting. Conseil Alice?
A question, because maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, it's 10:20. How long do we have? 10 minutes to discuss all that on the agenda right now? Is it
Um,
feasible?
We are scheduled to end at 10:30, so I'm sure that we're gonna be able to maybe not go through everything, but at least try to do our best.
Okay, yeah, but that's what happened. We go
Well,
past.
we need
Yeah.
a mover and a
Yeah.
seconder. Conseil Chris, Conseil Rowley.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Rivita, or pardon me, Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that we proceed into closed meeting as authorized in section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land or by municipality or local board regarding Promenade du Lac, personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees regarding bylaw enforcement and Cano.
Everyone in agreement? Carried, adopted.
I need to stop the live stream.